So, white men are declaring their love for black women.
I do love black women though, and they definitely my little chocolate babies. Boy, chocolate my favorite motherfucking flavor.
But here's the problem.
If you look at white kids, there's nothing, I don't think, intrinsic in white people that makes them hate themselves. Like when I was a kid, kids loved Hitler in the sense that we see the videos and we see the propaganda and the symbols, and there's something compelling about it just on an aesthetic level.
I've never heard that before. When you were a little kid, like 8 years old, all your friends liked Hitler?
Well, maybe not 8 years old, but on 4chan and on the internet.
Okay, yeah.
Very
Teenage.
popular.
This is also happening while neo-Nazis and open white supremacists are talking about a race war. This is happening at the same time certain black American men are talking about grabbing their passports and going abroad to marry women of other ethnicities or marry black women across the diaspora. This is also happening while Christian nationalism is on the rise, which many have termed white supremacy in disguise. So how is it possible that at the same time there is a gender war between modern men and modern women, along with a popular resurgence of white supremacy and the desire of some to incite a race war, and yet all of a sudden there's all these white men who have open arms to black women, despite the fact that the marriage rate and the birth rate is declining? The math ain't mathing, y'all. This is the social climate that we are living in today. But before I discuss this more, I want you guys to listen to the rest of the video and then I'll unpack it.
Hey, what's going on over here? Let me talk to you, sir. One, I don't feel bad. I am not apologetic at all that I refer to black women as chocolate babies, boy. That shit is not bad. You 30 years older than me, though. I understand, man. Two total different generations. Back in the 50s, that shit probably ain't sound fucking too good. It's 2021, though. That shit ain't bad. You know what I'm saying? I ain't out dropping the N-word and shit. You know what I mean? I could be like them other white boys that be singing that shit in the song, thinking that shit cool. I don't do that. Alright? I do love black women, though, and they definitely my little chocolate babies. Boy, chocolate my favorite motherfucking flavor, boy. Get over it. Ah, goddamn, turn your granddaughter into my chocolate baby. Boy, you gotta watch out for some young cats, boy. Some of us malicious, and I'm some of them.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna need one of you fine ass black ass queens. Bring your little fine ass over here. Come take your spot. I got your plate. You know what I'm saying?
Don't you dare disobey me, Coraline! Ah!
And so in these different videos that I played of different white men who are expressing adoration or interest in black women, we have one that I covered off a few weeks ago where a white man was clearly insulting black women to their face and they didn't even get it. You also have this other scenario with this redheaded white dude who talks about liking chocolate babies. Not to mention, he referred to a gentleman that was 30 years older than him as boy. He mentioned that word multiple times, which is strangely reminiscent of what?
Why ain't that boss back swinging?
And then don't get me started when he talked about him being a problem and taking one of his grandbabies. But at the same time, he admits that he's not going around using the N-words like other white men that he knows. Literally telling you guys, literally admitting to you the kind of culture that he's around. Just giving you a clue into what he is surrounded by. And then you have the other video. This other white guy who his entire page is basically talking about his interest in black women, his relationships with black women, his interactions with black women. Okay, granted. But then he literally has a video where he's joking about his parents wanting white grandchildren. This is the reality, y'all. And you don't believe me? I mean, there's even studies on this where it talks about white men who have a preference primarily for white women. Many of them who, if they do date or marry out, they judge women of other races based upon white and European beauty standards. For all of you colorism, featureism, texturism, colorist complainers out there, this is what you're marrying into. Let's get honest about this stuff. And so this is why I get really bothered, because Again, interracial relationships is almost painted as like some freaking fairy tale, as if there's not issues associated with it, unique issues, and there absolutely are. You can still have a fulfilling relationship if you date and marry out. I know plenty of people who do and who have. But there's one thing to really love a person and to be willing to understand their experience and try to work with them. And there's another thing to just fetishize them and want to do some race play kind of stuff. And more often than not, what I am seeing is some fetishization, race play. And so if they don't choose wisely, just like any other scenario, they can fall into a situation where they'll end up with really bad results. Falling into scenarios where they end up getting screwed over because the guy didn't really care about them. Or they try to pull the black woman attitude and they get put into place and they're not ready for it.
Олег, я же говорил, Олег, блядь. Не провоцируй.
Сука ебаная.
Олег, уйди. Уйди оттуда.
They're not acclimated to how other races of men handle their women when they don't like how they're being treated. So let's just get real. We don't live in a post-racist society. Society is very much organized based upon class, based upon economics, based upon race. Just because somebody is nice to you doesn't mean that they don't have racist ideologies. Just because we're not in the civil rights era anymore doesn't mean that all social issues have gone away and that there isn't still the possibility of running into somebody or running into a scenario where you're going to experience some prejudice and racism. This is something that I just don't really hear black women talking about a ton, especially when we are some of the most open when it comes to dating and marrying out, and we love to promote it. If we want to talk about it, then we also need to talk about the risks associated so that young girls and young women don't find themselves in scenarios where they are, quite frankly, blindsided because they weren't prepared for the reality. With the rise of Christian nationalism, with the rise of people saying that there is a race war, calling for a race war, are you prepared? Are you ready? Do you know how to spot people? If you want to date and marry out, okay, cool. But understand what you're getting yourself into. You might have to deal with some racist in-laws. Make sure the person you are marrying is not racist and prejudiced. Make sure you yourself are not prejudiced, or else you'll probably attract the wrong kind of guy. You might have to deal with some food you're not used to.
Josh, we ain't got time for that today. Thank you.
You might end up having mayo on your turkey for Thanksgiving.
Got it?
No.
You got it?
No. I don't know. All right, good.
That's the whitest thing I ever seen.
It's mayonnaise. You
Just my
asshole.
eardrums. Pick open the stupid thing.
Get out of the way.
Open the drawer.
Hold on, we gotta put some more seasoning on that while you
Let
got
him put
that.
some
Did
seasoning.
we do mayonnaise last night?
There's
Mayonnaise is not a seasoning.
I seasoned the whole.
Mayonnaise.
You seasoned it.
Put it in.
Mom,
Put it in.
let's just throw some
Go
pepper.
ahead.
Did last night.
Where?
Shit.
It looks white because there's mayonnaise on it.
Cook all you want.
Like, this is the kind of stuff that people deal with. And some people are able to navigate it and do it okay and have successful marriages. And there's also a lot of women, especially if they end up with situations with men who have bad intentions or quite frankly who don't respect them or may even dislike them. And like I said, they end up in the freezer. Don't let that be you. Be mindful. Don't accept the bare minimum. Don't be so quick to drop your panties just because the dude is white and because he says he has a thing for sisters. That's not impressive. A white man wanting to have sex with a black woman is not impressive. That's been happening since slavery. So we have to start to raise our standards, ladies. But what do you think? Do you agree or disagree? Let me know. Leave your questions, comments, concerns in the comment section below. Thank you so much for listening if you've gotten this far, and we'll talk later. Bye. Across this video on TikTok. Okay. Where we at? Hey, what's going on, everybody? How is it going? Happy Wednesday. Happy Wednesday evening for some of you guys. If you're here, like, share, subscribe. Y'all know the drill. Also, let me see real quick. I want to give a special shout out. I saw some of y'all show some love on Cash App just over the last few days. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. I want to appreciate all of you guys who have been, just supporting me. Shout out to Daniel Thompson with the 10. Shout out to Stanley Smith with the 25. Shout out to Omara Bay with the 15. I appreciate all of you guys who were showing some love to me on the Cash App. Like I really appreciate you guys. I mean, that makes it means a lot to me. It means a lot.
That go the money. That go the money. That go the money. That mother money. Money come. That money come. That go the money. That go the money. That go the money. That go the money.
Also, I got a 14 on the super chat from my 2 cents. Shout out to my 2 cents 705. Sorry, $14.99. I appreciate you. And a $9.99 the day before. So again, shout out to you for showing some love. I appreciate all you guys. I know there's been a lot of information, man. I've been feeding y'all with a lot of information. So y'all know the drill. Like, share, subscribe. Also, if this information, if you find it helpful or useful, definitely be sure to pass it along, because I think the more we can have really bring awareness to what is going on, or at least bring it to the light, then the more we can actually start to shift the conversation towards some things. So, really just to get right into it, y'all know the last few days I've kind of revisited this idea of swirling and divesting is the term, but really what it is Black women who idolize or fetishize white men, and how dangerous that is. And the problem with it is, I mean, you really are starting to see divestors show up like unalived. You know what I mean? I'm trying to make sure this live is monetized, but I'm just saying, like, ladies are out here getting real hurt, real bad. And anybody who's been following me for any length of time knows that I have been covering off divesting and swirling for quite some time now. I mean, I literally have a whole playlist. If y'all want to go real deep, and look at everything, like I got literally a whole playlist dedicated to it that has, like, I'm looking at it now. It has 92 videos. Now, granted, I've been on it for a few years, but I'm just saying there's been a few reasons that I've covered this off just consistently over the years. One is because I see the way in which I feel so many ladies are just going to the slaughterhouse, like figuratively and literally. And the same propaganda and narrative is being spewed that is not actually helping them, it is harming them. And then also, secondly, there is just huge interest in interracial dating. Like, you cannot talk to Black women or talk about Black love in general if you don't bring up interracial dating, because there's so many ladies are interested in it. And I have tested this theory out. I mean, I've done many videos about Black love and Black marriage and godly union and all kind of different stuff. And those videos are not getting the same traction that it is when it's, a Black woman with a white man, or Becky with the good hair and the Black man. Like, anytime I talk about swirling, interracial dating, or whatever, those videos always tend to outperform the ones that are related to Black love. I don't know if that's because of the interest. I don't know if that's the algorithm. I don't know if that's propaganda. I don't know if it's all the above, but I'm saying, so there's been multiple reasons that I've addressed this, but this came up again. I think this topic really came up again for me when I started to look at the Sade Robinson case. Now, for those of you guys who are not really familiar or who just haven't been deep on the internet like that, like, the Sade Robinson was a case that it really broke the internet last year, and it was a young 19-year-old woman. She seemed like she had a bright future, a good head on her shoulders. I think she was, headed to college or studying criminal justice. She was worked full time, took care of herself, all that different stuff. And she went on this date with this dude who was almost 15 years older than her, an older white guy, and ended up missing. And then fast forward a few days later, ended up dismembered all across different parts of the nation. So completely unalived. And so, it was actually rather gruesome. What happened to her was it wasn't just like a typical unaliving, if you will. It was very barbaric, the way in which she was dismembered in the way in which she was handled in the final moments of her life. And so obviously, you know, that particular case did get a lot of traction, which is actually not always the case, because there's plenty of Black women out there who end up doing the swirling or divesting, or at least testing it out and, you know, expanding their options, trying something new. There's plenty of those who end up having really, really bad scenarios or literally end up unalived, and they don't get national traction. But for some reason, her story did actually make it to the headlines. And so I covered that off in detail. I've done a few videos on that. If you guys haven't, you can go back and check. Over the last week or two, you'll see that I just covered off the whole process. And then what surprisingly, I guess not the good news, but it does seem like there's some closure in that the man who ultimately she went on the date with did end up he was found guilty on all 4 counts, because the amount of evidence was just overwhelming, right? So, but again, that really brought up this question of, you know, swirling, divesting, and then ultimately, what is the Black female ideology with respect to Black men and white men and dating and mating and all these different things? And, you know, there was so much mystery even connected with her case. Why was a young 19-year-old woman going on a date with a man who was, you know, 15 years older than her, when according to Sade Robinson's father, according to her own father, he was not her type? So why was she now going out with somebody who was not her type, who was older than her, right? So again, there's a lot of mystery still behind that case. But after having, you know, followed the case, and actually having had a chance to listen to her parents and get a little bit more understanding into some of the complexities with her own life coming up, but also, you know, the love that still seemed to be there from her parents and all of that, it really caused me to sit back and wonder how many ladies are being influenced via social media, via media in general, and quite frankly, fed propaganda about interracial dating and mating. And it's really causing them to make bad decisions. How many women are falling in that trap? So that's kind of what brought this conversation up again. And like I said, obviously I have a whole catalog. I have literally, let me share this with you guys who are just joining me, because I understand some of you guys are actually new to my channel, so you may not be aware about the content. But I have, when I say I've covered this off in detail, I really have, because unfortunately there is no shortage of stories. So if you guys want to go after and binge watch, I did a little recap today of it was like 90 minutes of me basically debunking all of the fetishizing, idolizing white men. But like I said, I have a whole playlist where I break down these things in detail, dedicated to this. And like I said, there's reasons why, because we see these, unfortunately, we see these cases time and time again of ladies who really end up getting hurt and getting harmed trying to swirl. They're trying to expand their options, and they literally end up 6 feet under, or just dismembered. Okay, so this is the time that we're living in. And also, another thing that I've noticed that I think is all connected to this is, as the economy changes, and as less and less ladies have institutional support, right? I know there's going to be more. They're getting stricter with Section 8. We obviously know that Black women lost the most jobs of any other group or gender or race in April. And so Black women are losing their jobs. Some of the jobs right now that are being outran or overtaken by AI are disproportionately filled with Black women. And so there's these things that are happening that I think are really forcing Black women up against the wall. And I think some of them might be slightly in survival mode, or or fully in survival mode, just trying to figure out the best way to navigate. And so I think also because of that, because of the economic challenges that are facing, quite frankly, Americans, but also that Black women are particularly susceptible to, because of the lack of wealth that is in the Black community as a whole, it's so much easier. It is so much easier to lie or manipulate or to persuade somebody who's in survival mode. If you have Black women who already feel that they are struggling financially, that they just feel that they're honestly in survival mode, like they feel afraid, they don't know what's going on, they know they can't necessarily handle the financial burden, but they don't necessarily want to say it. But I'm saying if you have women who are operating like that, maybe they lost their job or they feel job insecure or they actually are job insecure, monetary insecure, they're going to look for whatever means necessary to try to survive. And this is where white men come in. Because for years upon years before years, even before this, the current Trump presidency and a lot of the different things that have happened under the current presidency, even prior to that, white men were always positioned as this like trophy husband that if a Black woman, for whatever reason, decided she needed to leave the Black community, that her life was automatically going to elevate just by nature of her marrying somebody white. That's always kind of been an unspoken idea that by marrying a white man, you're elevating something, whether it's your social status, your relationship status, obviously your monetary status, your class. Like proximity to whiteness is always seen as a level up. So this idea has always been around, or at least for quite some time. But then now, like I said, when you add to that the economic challenges that are actually impacting everyday Americans, and then you add to that social media where propaganda is just on just overdrive, I think this is really starting to, not only is it reinforcing narratives that have already been there, I think it is almost radicalizing some of these women. Or at the very least, it is pumping them with ideas that are completely harmful. And I just have to wonder how many ladies are being influenced by, not real life, by hyper capitalistic or hyper materialistic ideas of relationship that are always connected to dating a white man. How many ladies look at dating white or assimilating into white culture as their way out of their struggle life? How many women are looking to becoming more white or trying to be more white or at least connecting more with white people as their way of trying to have an easier way to go? Versus something else, alternative. I mentioned Black love. Obviously, I love Black love. I will always support it and I will always talk about it. I just recognize the men and always get the same amount of love on the algorithm. Whatever, it is what it is. But there's also the reality of if you're just from a statistical standpoint, if a woman comes to the conclusion that she cannot do it alone, or just maybe she just wants to get married, maybe she doesn't want to do things by herself, and she wants to be marriageable, the reality is that the people today who are still the most likely to marry her are Black men. So believing in any idea, following any narrative that's going to isolate you from the men who are the most likely to marry you is like a failed strategy. It's literally a failed strategy. And so I'm just saying, this is what we're seeing. This is the climate that we're in. Women who are in survival mode, Black women who are in survival mode, financially insecure, right? Job insecure. Some are becoming food and housing insecure. Less access to institutional help or support. Many of them are in survival mode. And that is the perfect breeding ground for a whole bunch of propaganda and a whole bunch of self-love, level up, get you a sugar daddy, AKA an old white man to pay your bills. This is what's happening. And again, I mention that because, I just had this question. If Sade Robinson ran into that influence. Now, we don't really know. I never saw anything on her social media or tweets or messages of her saying things that were outlandish about Black men or saying that she hated the Black community. But I understand that women her age, she was 19, are so susceptible to that stuff. And here's the thing about it. I've mentioned for quite some time that I don't have a problem with interracial relationship in and of itself. I don't have a problem with two people falling in love and mutually respecting each other. Now, of course, I advocate for Black love all day, every day, right? That's what I believe in. And I believe, especially if you're about trying to strengthen or build the Black community, I do think if you are that, then you do need to have a Black partner if that's really, what you're about. But that's my belief. But from a personal, your own conviction or whatever, like never seen wrong with people falling in love with whoever they fall in love with. If they're a different ethnicity. The issue that I have is all the propaganda behind it, which how usually swirling and divesting goes is basically Black men suck and white men are the best option. Like, I mean, if I was just to try to narrow it down in the most purest layman terms, when you think about a lot of the propaganda today that talks about why women need to date out, it's always because Black men are horrible and because Black men have done everything wrong. And Black women have no other option but to expand their options to white men who are basically supposed to save them from Blackistan, or essentially save them from dusty Black men. Like that's pretty much the message in its purest form. Now, of course, you know, sometimes they'll be a lot more sophisticated with it. They may not say it explicitly. They may say like, oh, just it's the numbers, look at the numbers, or, you know, or Black men do this, or, you know, they may use different sophisticated language to try to not make it come off as just so egregious. But at its core, that's the message behind interracial relationship. It's not because necessarily, oh, it's two human beings who are falling in love and that's it. You know, that's not really it. The primary messaging that I've seen, at least, and that I feel like is very popular, is that Black women have to do that because Black men are not on their level. Black women have to divest, swirl, idolize, or fetishize white men, basically, because Black men are not leveling up. Like that's usually the idea behind it. And obviously that's a lie for so many different reasons. I've broken this down exclusively in previous lives and videos. You guys can check that out in my playlist. But that's just statistically untrue. And also it's dangerous. Because like I said, if the thing that is actually now in inspiring you to date out is the fact that you can't get along with men in your own community, that is a recipe for disaster, because white men can perceive that. And then also you look hella desperate. And then when you look desperate, that is also not good, because all it takes is the wrong person to take advantage of you, which many of them are doing. So yes. Okay. So real quick, shout out to you. I see some love. Shout out to you. It says Only Logical has, yes, he does. He does have some great content on this. Yeah. I think his entire channel was dedicated. I don't have a channel dedicated to it. I just have a playlist. But yes, Only Logical does have, I mean, I think his whole channel is literally dedicated to just following the propaganda with respect to swirling and divesting. Now, yeah, well, I'm gonna mention on that too, but real quick, shout out to YouTube guy with the 99 cents. Appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Like, share, subscribe. Y'all know the drill. Yeah, thank you guys for your support. I really, really, really appreciate it. I was trying to find my. Ooh, dang! I got too many. Oh, there it is. Okay.
That go the money. That go the money.
So on that, as I mentioned, the Sade Robinson is really what brought this case to me up again, which is why I wanted to address it again, because I think I just have to wonder how many ladies are being influenced by much of the content that I've covered this off in previous videos, but a lot of the propaganda about like the soft life, hypergamy, this whole idea that white men are here to basically elevate the lifestyle of Black women, and they're basically doing so and at their own demise and ending up unalived. I can think of at least I think at least like 3 or 4 off the top of my head of Black women who've done that and were unalived in the pursuit that I've covered off on this channel. Countless more who were completely degraded in pursuit of this idolized idea of white men. That is a fantasy that does not exist. So with that, what I wanted to do, what I found intriguing was I ran across this reformed swirler. The reformed, or however you want to put it, pro-Black swirler, however you want to put it. This is basically a Black woman who did the whole swirl thing and figured out that it wasn't really all it was cracked up to be. And I wanted to review some of her content. I posted it, I think maybe a day or 2 ago. I wanted to review it because you guys know that I've covered off in detail some of the different things that I've actually observed to be a problem. But it's another thing now to actually have someone who actually swirled and actually did the whole thing and tried it out, you know, bought the car, rode the car, and said, this thing is a lemon. This ain't worth it. So I wanted to review some of her talking points, because I think also because she actually was in interracial relationships and married to it, she adds a different dimension to this conversation that I thought was worth addressing. But again, I want to be very clear that there's just ultimately a lot of propaganda around this whole thing. It's one thing to fall in love with a person and you guys can share or respect each other's different culture or whatever. And it's another thing to idolize them as if they are God or as if they are your ticket out of your life. And it's a very, very, very clear difference. And unfortunately, the way that it's represented, women are being taught to idolize white men. They're being taught to fetishize white men. They're being encouraged to do that. Black women are being encouraged to idolize and fetishize white men by looking at them as their way out of their difficult financial situation and difficult life. And it's not even like these ladies necessarily even love white men as much as they love the idea of what white men, they think white men can do for them. The way they believe white men can give them an elevated social status, the way they assume white men can give them more money or access to money and wealth and clout in nice suburban neighborhoods and these nice vacations. And so these ladies actually are more in love with the idea with white men than they actually are white men themselves. This is also why you'll see swirlers who go out of the way to try to like give him swag, and give him characteristics or dress him in a way that is more associated with like African-American culture or black men. So again, it's not even necessarily that these Black ladies love white men. They just like the idea or the idolized fantasy idea of who they think white men are. And the reality is there's so many white women who don't even live this lifestyle that these Black women are aspiring to. Your average American is living paycheck to paycheck. So as I'm saying, this whole thing is a fantasy. A lot of them are chasing the wind. And in pursuit, many of them are being hurt, even harmed, even unalived. So that's what I wanted to address. Now, real quick, I'm going to bring up this video. And while I'm doing so, let's see. While I'm pulling this up, maybe I can go in a little. Do I still have this? Let me see if I still have this for you guys. Do I still got this? Bear with me. I used to have a little swirler thing. I used to have a little swirler intro because there's so much of it. But okay, I'm not finding it. No worries. Oh no, here it is. Okay. So while I bring up this video, I'm gonna give you guys a little swirler. We're gonna do a little swirler intermission, and then we will go into some of these different talk points.
Absolutely not. Because they're disgusting. Yeah. Yeah, you got the big room. Yeah, thanks, I know. I know, thank you. I know. Okay. So we are going to get into, the video that I posted that I wanted to review of the pro-Black or reformed swirler who gets really real about her experience. Shout out to you with the 5. It says, I'm glad you're speaking on the Swirlers and Divesters, social engineering. Yes. Well, and like I said, it's so funny. I mean, I've been covering this off for years on this channel off and on. As you know, I felt relevant as things came up. And I'm seeing that it is still relevant as ever. And I think a part of it could be because of just so many of the social changes that are happening in this country, in the way in which you start having ladies who are going into survival mode, or quite frankly, going into fantasy land as a way to try to navigate. Here it says a lot of the propaganda also came from shows like Scandal and movies like Guess Who, Bernie Mac. Today's worst in all entertainment commercials. Yes. Scandal. I've never watched an episode of Scandal. I never watched it. Like, the idea to me was just like the idea of having a whole series that's based upon like a quote bed witch unquote, like, is so disrespectful. Like, it's, to me, I'm surprised that Black women didn't like try to, I don't know, didn't try to like boycott that thing. Cause I'm like, are y'all not seeing how y'all are the laughing? This is hella disrespectful. To me, I didn't see this as a win or a level up. I saw that as, this is nasty. We're over here glorifying adultery, and we're glorifying a woman being a mistress, and y'all don't see like the historical implications and like how they're making fun. I just didn't like it. But it's crazy to me that it got so much traction. And it's because the writers obviously knew that there was a market for it, unfortunately. Okay. Here it says 30 commercials and 15 cartoons pushing Swirl. Wait, are you saying like in general, or you're saying like that's a stat? I mean, I'm sure there's plenty more, but there's a lot. There's a lot there. So shout out to you guys for the support. I appreciate you. Okay, so now let me bring up some of what I posted. There's a lot here, but I wanted to, react to some of the different things that she said, because she's mentioned things that I've mentioned or I've said to you guys for years now. But it's one thing for me to say it from observation. It's another thing to hear someone who actually did it, who did the whole swirl thing, tried it out, bought the car, rode the car, and then figured out that it was all a liar scam. Right? So that's what we want. That's what I want to review. Okay. So let's go back right here.
I'm about to say something hella controversial, but it needs to be said. But let's get into this video and then we'll talk about it.
Fast. We can go back. Yeah, she already talks fast. So I'm gonna go back.
I totally understand your frustration, and I'm so sorry that you feel that way.
So you know how to not be rah-rah with a black man, but as soon as you get with a white man, you want to try to act calmly in your communication skills. Make that make sense, please. Because y'all are looking at it as if you don't know how to communicate with a black man because the fact that you are getting checked by a black man, and a white man don't know how to check you because he doesn't have the cultural context and depth to even know how to come for you when you need to be come for. But I really just have a question for you, black women, is why is it that when a white man is doing the exact same shit that a black man does, especially when he is portraying a black man's persona, a black man's energy, y'all all ready to be like, ooh, drop your fucking panties, please?
Okay, so real quick. So hear what she's talking about, right? Double standards. Double standards. I've done live videos on this where it's like, do black women have different standards for black men than they do have white men? I've done videos on this. Of course, I've gotten so much pushback. I've gotten so many women being like, you're pandering. Why are you hating on black women? You don't like black women. Like, I've gotten so much. Honestly, I've gotten like a lot of negativity. I've gotten a lot of haters, people who don't like me, black women specifically who don't like me because the way in which I have consistently addressed some of these self-hating ideas, and they were not happy with it. And so now I'm like, part of me is like, okay, so now I feel validated when I got an actual ex-swirler who's coming out here telling y'all what we've all known to be true, but finally being honest about it. Okay, so, but she's basically saying what I mentioned before. It's like, y'all got different standards. You got standards for black, you got standards for black men that are sky high, standards for white men that are different. And not just white men, Hispanic men, Asian, the standards are different when it's a different culture. There's a lot more leniency. You can see the humanity. You can create space for him to evolve or change or to have, peculiarities or differences. But if it's a black man, sometimes it's like we want to be sky high. And of course, I'm not saying this is all black women. We know that goes without saying. This is not all black women. But for those to whom it applies, it's a pretty significant amount. You can say that much, okay? Yeah. So she mentioned that. She's like, y'all got different standards. And then also what I just mentioned earlier in the live, notice how many black women get with white men or promote white men who have swag, who got a little bit of edge, who got a little bit that urban style. It's like they may want to be with a white man that has basically more African American aesthetics or cultural aspects of him. And that to me shows me it's like, y'all don't even necessarily even like white men because you're so quick to try to make this white man the kind of culture that you want, which shows me it's not like you're in love with who the white men are intrinsically are. It's like you want the social status that he thinks comes with him. You want the money. You want all of that while still keeping aspects of your culture, right? You know what I mean? So we see that too. That's why she was out there. She was just like, so you're going to judge a black man for doing the things, but then the white man does the same thing and you're happy about it. That's what I'm saying. It's like, it's a double standard. It's not, it's like the math doesn't make math. Makes no sense. Okay.
Please make that make sense. Because when a white boy is listening to the exact same music as a fucking black boy, all of a sudden, you know, he's swagged, he's cultured, right? He gets me, right? We tapped in, right? But when you hear a black man doing the exact same thing, oh my God, he's ghetto. Oh my God, he needs to like grow up. Oh my God, he needs to be educated. This, that, and the third. Like,
so how would you purify water in case of a blackout? Oh, I'd boil it. Boiling kills bacteria, but it doesn't.
What? The fact that some of you black women don't realize how anti-black you are, because it doesn't make sense when y'all sit here and talk about, I love my black skin, right? I love being a black girl, whatever the case may be. But then you go after white boys that are literally pursuing the fucking black energy.
Okay, here, let me also say this too, which I found to be the most incredibly confusing. How are you pro black woman, but you don't believe in procreating black women? Y'all notice that? Y'all notice how many pro black woman pages promote swirling, promote black women expanding their options to non-black people, but then you want to sit here and act like you're pro black woman? And I'm like, to me, I'm sorry, like basic pro anything 101 is believing in their existence. Like if you want black women to exist, that still requires two black people getting together. Because also these same pro black women are going to want to sit at biracials and be like, oh, that's a biracial. She don't fit in this group. So y'all have all these standards that what really makes a woman black. Right? If she's too light, if her hair is a particular way, if she's whatever, if she don't have certain features that y'all consider not black enough, she's not in the black community. So it's like, okay, fine, granted, we can accept that. But then some of these same ladies will really sit up here and be like, they need to expand their options though. So it's like, you say that you're for a black woman, but you don't believe in procreating black women. That don't make any sense. Like the logic is not there. That's what I'm saying. It's like, this is how you know certain things are also a propaganda. Like when the math, it doesn't math. Like when you start to just try to look at things just from a purely logical standpoint, and you're like, this actually doesn't make any sense at all. You can't be pro yourself if you don't believe that yourself should exist. If you want other dark skin, beautiful dark skin, African feature, however y'all want to say, non-Eurocentric features, then you have to get with other dark skin, non-Eurocentric people, men, AKA black men. If y'all really like pretend to care about that. Now, if you don't, then that's fine. Okay, whatever, that's cool. But I'm like, don't try to be pro-black over here, but then want to be as assimilated in the white culture as possible over here. Like y'all got to be consistent. And if there's one thing that I don't see about this movement, it is consistency. One of the most at least I'll say this, they are consistently inconsistent. That is what I can say. Consistently inconsistent. Okay, shout out to you. My 2 cents says, it's amazing. Also, did you see the black woman that got on her knees and virtually crossed? I am not aware of that at all. I'm not aware of that. So if you want to email that to me. If you have receipts, please email that to me. Or also members, I don't know if you're a member or not. Actually, I don't know. If you guys become a channel member, you can join my Discord. I'm trying to get that popping, get more people there. And I know some of you guys members are not there. So if you recently became a channel member, sign up for my Discord. I'll send a link to you guys again, you can check it out. But that's also a good way if you guys want to send me information. that I can like review or look at or whatever, because I am not familiar with that situation. And like I try to keep a pulse on things, but I'm one person and like the world is huge, obviously. So it helps to have multiple eyes, multiple people, you know. Okay, here it says a lot of so-called struggle is self-induced. Yes, this is true. This is true. Like I always say, it's like the common denominator. Like if you can't make you can't make it work with black men, you date out, you can't make it work with white men. At a certain point, it's like, okay, somebody has to look in the mirror. Who is the common denominator? Who is the common denominator? You know what I mean? So, okay, so let's continue with this one. Let's continue with this,
I'm gonna keep it a buck with y'all. Y'all are not being soft with these white men because they're treating you better. You're only being soft with these white men because they're white and you expect them to treat you better. But you're not even realizing that this white man got his whole entire personality off of a black man.
Okay, also soft, performative. You want to talk about performative femininity? Because you can do the whole fake valley girl, fake submissive, like, oh honey, like yes, you know, whatever. You can do that for a certain amount of time. But if this relationship actually gets real and gets serious, at some point that act is going to end. It's going to end. Now, I've heard some people, this is an idea that I've heard. I can't verify if this is true or not, but I've heard some of y'all black men specifically say that what happens is these black women will go and put this fake submissive performance on with these white men. And the white men, they'll be like, okay, she's a different Keisha, right? So they'll be cool with it for a bit, but then get her mad or get her under pressure and she'll snap and the neck will pop out real quick. The personality, all of that whole, you know, suburban valley girl out the door, and the Compton comes straight out. You know what I mean? Or the Bronx personality comes straight, or the Queens, you know what I mean? So like I've heard where it's like the act can work for a certain amount of time, but when that personality and that neck rolling starts to happen, these white dudes, they don't know how to handle it. And some of them actually snap. They snap because they're not used to women talking to them in that way. They're not used to the kind of energy, the kind of back talk, the kind of aggression. They're not used to that. Black men know how to handle that. Black men are. They kind of know, you know, they grew up. But some of these other cultures is like, huh? That's not how they do stuff. Especially you're talking to men that come from like very traditional cultures, you come from like Indian cultures or Middle East, like, especially you start dealing with that and they're still connected to their culture, those women end up getting literally unalived. And they'll have like public unaliving. Some of them will be like, they're about folks being burned at the stake, like crazy stuff. If you start popping off at the mouth. So I'm just saying that because it's like, you have these ladies who will put on a front sometimes to try to act like they're, or to try to be the kind of woman they think the man wants. And it may get them in the door, but then pressure starts happening. The real character comes out. And some of those men, particularly if they're from races or cultures in which backhanding a woman is not a big deal, they will snap on that woman and it will be deadly. And that's actually what we've seen, right? And I really thought about this idea. I'm like, there actually might be some truth to this. I do think there's some truth to this. I don't know how, to what level, but yeah, you're talking about cultural differences. That's real. You said Brad told she actually. Yeah, I mean, I know you're starting to have some like more and more, you know, broad burning feminists. Like, I mean, of course you're starting to see more white women. That's what feminism was about. But by and large, like there's definitely a difference. There's a difference. I don't think we even have to debate that. We don't have to debate that. Okay.
I'm about to say something that's hella controversial. So if you do not have the emotional capacity, right? If you don't have the intellectual capacity, right, to like actually pay attention and listen to understand instead of listening to respond out of emotion, if I have triggered you, right? This video is not for you, okay? I am seeing this come across my FYP so much, and it cracks me up in a way because of the fact that I am one black woman who used to date white men. And sometimes when I see some of you black girls that come on this app and y'all are showing off your little white men, right? I can peep very much who's doing it out of a materialistic thing to just show off the fact that like, hey, I got chosen by a white man, I'm good over here, whatever the case may be, right? but you're actually not coming from a genuine place of love. Oop, I said it.
I mean, I think we all know this. I mean, I think we're at the point where, like, because of social media and because of the amount of just how egregious some of these ladies have really been and how careless they've been about their ideas about white manhood. I mean, it's not like Black women go online and the only people who see them is Black women. Like, you can't necessarily control who sees you. If you go on the public platform, anybody can see it. So white men, white people, they're seeing this stuff. And even if they're not on social media like that, they have some of them actually have Black male friends. Or they interact with Black males and they'll talk about these things. That's what I'm saying. It's like, they know this. They're not stupid, especially if you're trying to deal with a white man that has access and legacy and connections. He's not stupid. You ain't gonna be able to sit there and like do your little soft girl, hyper feminine persona and think that you're just gonna have him wrapped around your finger like that. You're the one getting played. And I think a lot of these ladies think that they have white men fooled and they have the world fooled. And it's like, no, you're actually the laughing stock. That's why we're having this conversation. Like, I need you to know, everybody knows that this is a joke. Everybody knows that. So can we just stop? Like, just be normal. Like, don't constantly parade the fact that your person, whoever, is white. Like, if you're leading with that, that's just weird. It's weird. Okay, let's continue. Oh, to answer your question, no. Okay, so we had to, originally I was actually going to have her on, this person that I'm interviewing, and I might do it later on. I might do a whole nother live, but I think we got, things changed. Originally I was going to have her on and we were going to talk, do like a one-on-one, and hopefully within the next few weeks or something we can collaborate, because I want to have this reformed swirler that I'm reformed, or pro-Black swirler, however you want to put it. I want to have her on and ask her some questions. So that is the goal. We're just now trying to iron out some particular time. So, but yeah, I saw one of you guys ask about that. Okay, let's continue.
I don't think a lot of you guys really actually understand white men and how they view us as Black women. I'm gonna be the first to admit it. Like I said before, I've been around white men my entire life. I've heard some things, I've seen some things, I know some things, okay? And of course, I know some of y'all gonna be like, well, not all white men, da, da, da. It's the same shit y'all do when it comes to Black men. So don't even come in my comment section trying to be like that, okay? Because I'm gonna call you out and you're gonna look real, real stupid, okay? Going into what I'm talking about, because I'm talking about white men right now and Black women. I'm not even talking about Black men. Don't even bring them in my comment section. I'm talking about white men and Black women.
Thank you. Let me say that. Thank you. She's like, because let me also say this, and I've noticed this personally. Every single time we want to sit here and talk about something a Black woman does, every single time we want to try to hold her feet to the fire, just even remotely, first thing we want to do is talk about Black men. First thing they want to do is look at all the things that Black men are doing or not doing. And I'm like, this conversation has nothing to do with Black men. We are talking about Black women. For all these, Black women need to have their own space, and pro-Black women and Black women need to have their own voice and listen to Black women. For all these, it's so crazy how when it comes to certain topics and certain things that we actually do or struggle with, then now we don't want to talk about Black women anymore. We want to talk about Black men. Now it becomes all the things Black men are doing. And I'm like, could y'all stop? Can y'all stop? That's not helping. Again, you're making it more obvious. So I thought that's funny that she said that. She was like, well, don't bring Black men into this. Let's look at what Black women are doing. And I want you to also notice here too. This is why I can take some of what she's saying seriously. Now I know there's some of you guys out there who have the mindset that you can never trust a woman who's ever swirled. If she's ever swirled, if she's ever seriously date or married, as this lady, she was married to a white man, you can't take her seriously. I understand some of you guys have that mindset for whatever reason. But I'm just saying she's coming from a place of experience. And so I think she can probably come with this level of passion because this was probably her. You know what I mean? She knows this because she did this. So she can speak to all the different, the unspoken things, the different ideas, the duplicity that ladies do, because this is what she did. You know? So, okay.
In your communication skills. Y'all have not had.
Probably one of the biggest questions that we get from our customers is, well, how do you really go about buying gold? One option that people have is they could invest in what's called an ETF, or an exchange traded fund.
This, right? So they use it to get to you. I don't know how many white men would try to give me materialistic how we are when it comes to black men. And like, he came to a gift from God, right? He just, white man is treating you the way that you are wanting to be treated. The ones that come on this app and they talk about their experience, or they even are talking about them as they are dating a white person, a white man, and the things that they say that this white man is doing, you can just tell in the face that they act like he came to a gift from God, right? He just dropped down the sky and this white man is the best white man and whatever the case may be. And y'all don't realize the fact that it's all part of the fucking game that they play towards black women. White men know our history as black women. White men know what we truly desire and how we are when it comes to black men and them not giving us what we truly desire, right? Y'all come on this app constantly on a day-to-day basis and spew the negativity about black men so that white men, right, are peeping this shit, right? And they're like, oh, well, all I got to do is just do this part. Oh my God, he opened the door for me. Oh my God, he took me to Barbados. Oh my God, he brought me a Rolex. Oh my God, he brought me a Range Rover, right?
So y'all notice that she's saying these dudes they're not dumb. They're not blind, they're not mute. Like they see what's actually being said. They see what's being done. Like they're hearing you. They have been listening to you. And it's funny because like some of these ladies really sit up here and like call themselves giving like advice, secret advice, as if only black women can hear it. And it's like, you can't go on a public platform like TikTok or Twitter or YouTube or anything, the public domain for literally everybody to see, and then be confused when everybody knows what you're doing. So what I'm saying, it's like, the joke's on you. We already know, white men already know that y'all are out here fetishizing them. They're already fully aware of this. And many of them are using this to their advantage. That is why I'm literally saying, y'all are out here like ticking time bombs. People, they're looking at you like you are their next prey. Like if you go back to Sade Robinson, right? Like we don't fully know what inspired her to go on a date with that dude who was like almost 15 years older than her. The dad made it very clear that that was not her type physically. So he was confused. He's like, I don't even know why she dated him. I'm like really confused. He knows his daughter type. It's just like, what influenced her to go out with a dude she's not attracted to? So she goes on this date with a guy who's a few years older than him. And here's the thing about it, for those of you guys who actually didn't follow the case, one of the evidence that came out is that Maxwell Anderson, he's the one that actually unalived Sade Robinson. He had actually literally said to somebody that he was planning on unaliving her. He said this. He admitted this to somebody who actually wanted to stand and testify. He said, oh, he was planning to unalive her. So he had already plotted in his mind that that was his prey, that was his next thing. And we didn't know why, what made him feel like she was it. But he said that. And what I'm saying is some of these white dudes just feel like, or know that black women are just hella easy. They're really easy to impress. It takes the bare minimum, literally the bare minimum. And they will drop their panties and then they will idolize him. They will create a YouTube page because I got the little white boy. And it's like, it don't really take much. And unfortunately, all it takes is just the wrong person to use that to their advantage, which some of them are doing. And you're 6 feet under and you are another breaking news story. And I hate to be that grotesque. Like, it's not even that I'm necessarily trying to fearmonger. It's just like, y'all ladies got to know, you need to continue to have standards with white men like you would anybody else. You want to have high standards for black men, that's fine. Okay, whatever. But you still need to have sky high standards for white men because they're not perfect. They're not like beyond reproach. They do wrong too. And some of them are actually using the fact that you're desperate as a way to unalive you, to harm you. And how many stories? It felt like every year there's a national story. So you have to imagine, if there's a national story that makes it to the headlines, how many stories are happening that are not national? How many of these situations that are happening that are just under the radar? Quite a few. What's going on, Mr. Z? I got to give Mr. Z a shout out because he got the receipts. Mr. Z got the receipts because I actually found out about this content from him. So I love Mr. Z's channel. He got some good stuff there. He's always keeping me. Yeah, he's always giving me some good receipts. Man, like I said, he got the receipts for real, for real. Okay. All right. So let me continue. And yeah, you guys like, share, subscribe. Y'all know the drill. Now let's keep it pushing. Let's keep this pushing because she's dropping some bars. But you know the thing about it is, I'm more apt to believe her because she actually did the thing. She actually was on the swirl. She was on the swirl road deep. I mean, she married the dude. Now, we don't know why it ended. That's why I want to interview her. I want to understand, like, how did you go from like marrying a white man, like you're fully committed to you've made a covenant with this man, to now you're divorced and you're pro-black. Like that's a pretty significant change. So, and I've always been interested in the swirler to pro-black pipeline, because that is a thing. There is a pipeline of like swirlers or reformed ex-swirlers who are now like very much for the community. Like that is a thing. So more to come on that whenever we do have a chance to interview. Okay.
These white men know that a lot of y'all have not had this, right? So they use it to get to you. I don't know how many white men would try to give me materialistic things, and I'm looking at them like, what are you doing? And they're like, oh, I thought, you would really like this. I've been on a cruise. You don't need to give me a cruise. Like, oh, you have? Why are you shocked that I've been on a fucking cruise? Where did you think I lived? In the cotton fields? Like, come on, let's keep it a buck. And I'm not saying this as an ungrateful thing, but I'm saying this as a way that a lot of y'all don't even peep the fact that they're giving this shit because they think that you've never even had it. They think that you are so low, right? That you've never even seen what a white person can do for you. Every single time I come on this app and I see an interracial couple, as far as a black woman and a white man, the first thing I notice is always it's materialistic.
Okay, so literally, this is what I've said, and this is why this also reiterates my point that they're not actually they don't like white men like that. A lot of these, swirler divestors, expander options, and whatever, these hypergamy ones who are talking about, who are like trying to show off their white man, don't actually like him or don't actually like his white or respect his whiteness. We know this because I'm like, these are the same ladies that voted the most against white men politically. Literally, black women are like the most antithetical or oppositional to white men. Black women are more politically aligned to black men. The 92%, right? So the 92% who voted for Kamala Harris, who are big mad at Becky with the good hair for voting for Trump, they don't want to touch white men, but I'm like, politically, they're misaligned. But now when it comes to relationships, those politics go out the door. When it comes to the butter and bread, and when it comes to ultimately, like, this life, relationships, the fantasy, none of these ladies have anything to say about their man's political affiliations. Y'all notice that? The 92% who was holding it down for Kamala, the 92% who was supposedly saving the black community, ain't got nothing to say about their man's political affiliation, although we know that white men are still huge Trump supporters. But I'm saying that because I'm like, that's showing you that they don't really care about white men and the things that white men actually value. They just care about what they think white men can do for them. And that's why I'm saying it's like, y'all coming off as like hella, like, obvious, you know what I mean? Coming off obvious. You're coming off desperate, honestly. And some dudes, unfortunately, all it takes is the wrong white man to use that to his advantage, which some of them are actually doing as we speak. Okay, also, yeah, no worries, Mr. Z. I just wanted to drop the link because, like I said, shout out to Mr. Z. All of this information I got from his page. You know what I mean? So I was like, if you want to come in and hop in and chat, you are more than welcome to call in Mr. Z. Because I appreciate you for Mr. Z got the receipts. He got the receipts. You know what I mean? Okay, so and that's if you can. No worries. I understand if you can't. Now I saw some other super chats come through. Okay, I did this one. Shout out to, again, My 2 Cents. I really appreciate you for coming through with the support, My 2 Cents. It says it's amazing. Also, did you see the black woman that got it? Oh, no, I think we did that one already. Okay. I want to make sure I get to the, wait, did I get all that? Sorry, you guys. I thought I got another super chat. Maybe I'm tripping. This one is okay. Also factor in all the missing black. Listen. This is why we're having this conversation. Because I said Sade Robinson actually made it to national news, and they're actually streaming her the whole court case live. And I think there's one other. I want to say she worked for the Duchess or something. I cannot think of her name. Only Logical probably has the receipts there, because Only Logical got the receipts when it comes to some of that extras. I'm not gonna lie. But I covered her off in a previous video. I can't think of her name, but it was like basically it was a very, very highly successful black woman who ended up marrying a white man. They were like a long time boyfriend and girlfriend off and on, and they finally got married. And I think within a month of the marriage, she got unalived. Right. So I think that made national news too. But what I'm saying is, we already know that the cases of like black women and missing black women, they tend not to be on the forefront nationally. Like there tends to be other things that make it to the forefront. This is all the issues that black women have about the Amber Alert, right? Y'all, any of you guys are familiar with that many black women have been upset about the Amber Alert, saying that black women are oftentimes not a part of it. They tend to look at white women or white girls or whatever, but black women tend to be like the last ones who get notification. So there's a whole movement behind that. But what I'm saying is, if we already know that black women are the least likely to be reported, and this has been statistically backed up, so they're not lying about this. Black women are least to be reported, and still every year you have a national story of a black woman being unalived. Lauren Smith Fields. We talked about Sade Robinson. There's hella other people off the top of my head. I cannot remember their names because I lose track because there's unfortunately so many. But like if you have these stories that are making national news, you have to wonder how many stories are happening that are not. Because it takes so much for a story, it takes so much for a black woman's name to make into the headlines. It does when it comes to those kind of situations. So how many are not making into the headlines? That's what I'm saying. How many are just ending up missing? And here's the thing about it. I did a live a while back. I don't know if it was, I think it was last year. I did a live of a woman in my area who does human trafficking. Or she basically runs a nonprofit with human trafficking. This is a black woman. And I sat down and we just did an interview on it and just I got all the facts. It was a really great interview. If you guys want to go back and check it out, it gives some really good information. But one of the stats that came out, she shared was when you look at the Johns, the so-called Johns, right? And those who essentially elicit services, who are eliciting services, the overwhelming majority of them are white male, and specifically like middle-aged, generally college-educated, middle or higher income white males are the ones who are the most likely to solicit services. And who are the ones who are likely to give those services? They are underaged black girls. So human trafficking right now is disproportionately represented by underaged black girls, underaged young black girls who are being pimped out for these older white men. That is happening. And so also another unspoken thing that's happening is you see a lot of these like hypergamy channels and these like young looking girls who are with these old dudes who are supposed to be giving these nice lifestyles. And I also have to wonder how much of that is actually connected with human trafficking, unfortunately, because some of those who are actually trafficked are in plain sight. And what happens is they may get trafficked when they're really, really young. When they maybe, I think she said the average age was like 11. Like the average age for a girl to actually get trafficked is young. It's like 9, 10, 11, around there. And she says some of them, they will grow up. They'll actually grow up as prostitutes essentially. And they'll continue. It's a whole industry. Like I said, I break it down extensively in that live. But again, I'm adding that caveat in there because also we have to remember that some of these hypergamy level up channels are actually prostitutes. They're sex workers. Some of them may actually be connected to trafficking, but they're trying to sell a narrative. And that's a whole other thing that isn't being talked about. Okay, let us continue.
The way that she's dressed, right? The type of background that she's in, right? The fucking video that she used that, I just came across a woman who was talking about my man gave me pasta and lobster, and she has a white man. Hello? Y'all talk about being oppressed so much, but yet y'all continue to feed into the oppressor and what the oppressor is giving you because of the fact that y'all think y'all are so oppressed and he's paying attention to you.
Okay, here's another thing. I'm like, going back to black women sometimes, and again, I'm not talking about all. We're talking about the ones that we all know, right? Double speak. Like, y'all remember that feminist that just had the whole thing we're talking about, it's time to hold these black men accountable or whatever, and she's talking about how like it's the same thing. It's in one instance, black women are outperforming, outworking, out earning, outdoing black men, but then in another instance, they're oppressed by them. And it's like, bruh, like, what are you? Are you the winner or are you the loser? Are you the victor or are you being victimized? Like, you can't be both. Like, you can't, it's not possible for you to be outperforming and not winning and superseding and surpassing black men who are at the same time holding you back and oppressing you. Like you have to stick to a narrative. And so that's what she says too. It's like, y'all don't make no sense. Y'all sit up here acting like y'all are supposedly oppressed, but then you're feeding into like you're doing it. Like you're doing it. And notice the hyper-materialism. That's what I said before. You can tell these ladies don't really care about these men because anytime they're talking about white men and anytime they're promoting interracial, it's always connected to hyper-materialism. Always. I don't ever see it connected to like, you know, the I don't know, like emotional well-being or, you know, strengthening the community or doing something like a humanitarian effort or doing something that is, you know, kind or generous or going to help the overall goal. Like I never really see it associated with anything that would be more humanitarian or more, I don't know, just something that is good outside of materialism. Like never. I mean, maybe it exists. If y'all see it, let me know. I don't ever see it. It is always associated with how much money he has given her or is going to give her. It's always hashtag like age gap or I love it here or 1 year with a white man. And then the next scan is like, you see this big old nice car. And then now you see her, you know, dancing on like a yacht, or now she's at a restaurant and she's doing selfie, hashtag black white effect. Like it's always 100% of the time, it is hyper materialism. So they don't even like white men like that. They just want their resources. And white men who know this are just playing along with the game. They're just playing along with the game. What's going on, Mr. Z?
My bad. Give me a second.
Yeah, all good. Take your time. I'm gonna keep on playing, and then you can hop in when you're cool.
Oh, a black man never opened the door for you. Oh, a black man never, really told you you're beautiful. Oh, a black man, Okay, I know exactly what to do to get to y'all. And y'all fucking are weak in the knees. I've been around so many black women that as soon as a white man gives her a compliment, oh my God, you would have thought the Nile River woke up. Yeah. Like, it's insane. But as soon as a black man was to give her a compliment, it's thank you with an attitude. Like,
with an attitude.
Y'all haven't peeped this shit yet? And
she said with an attitude though. Not only is she it's like, oh, that's not good enough. Or he's not this. Oh, like and this is why I'm laughing, because I'm like, she's telling on herself. Like, she's literally telling on herself. She will acknowledge that she was a reformed. She will acknowledge that. She will acknowledge that. So this is why
we call it the black tax.
What'd you say? The black tax? Right. That part. Like, this is nothing surprising. It's just, I'm like, at some point, these ladies need to actually recognize that everybody knows their game. Like, are they going to recognize it? Are they just getting?
They think white men don't know where they rank on the hierarchy.
Yeah, and I've always wondered, like, how much, as this nation changes, as the economy changes, as as the power structure and everything globally changes, I wonder how much ladies are going to push more and just kind of push full-fledged into the fantasy. Like, I think you're going to see divide. You're seeing some more black women on the accountability train, and it's like, we got to hold black women accountable and apology videos. So there's that. But then I think there's always going to be a subset who are just going to go full force in their fantasy. I don't know. Maybe
That's what bridges are for.
That's what who?
That's what bridges are for, Shay. Don't worry about them. You'll see them when you go downtown.
Yeah. So also shout out to you for having the receipts on this one, because I was like, this is I feel slightly validated. Huh?
My apologies. I was saying thank you.
Oh yeah. No, I said I feel slightly validated because I already know this to be true, but I'm like, I'm happy I'm finally seeing a swirler say it. Or a reformed swirler. Now, tell me, do you think it's possible to have a reformed swirler? I know there's some black men out there who don't even think it's real. They just think it's like, well, you just basically, once you figured out you didn't have any more options. I know some believe that, but there's some believe that a transition is possible. What are your thoughts on the reformed pro-black swirler, or from the swirler to pro-black pipeline? What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's real. I think it's not whether or not they got their mind right. It's whether or not any black man want to do anything with them after the fact. Right. I do think that, and shout out to BGS who said this, like, you ain't never seen somebody pro-black then after they get dogged out by a white dude. Right.
Wait, he's talking about black women specifically?
Yes. Yep.
My husband said that too. He was like, and now, because he was the one that told me, he's like, I honestly, in America specifically, he was like, anytime I see a black woman who's pro-black, I look at them sideways, because first of all, we just don't live in a culture that really inspires that. Like, Black America is to a certain extent is more about, how to assimilate and how to kind of work with. It's not like, how do we kind of have our own separatists? You have that in certain spaces, maybe certain religious spaces or whatever. But by and large, like the black, or at least the black female American narrative, AKA black feminism, has basically been about assimilating. That is like the mainstream culture. So he was like, anytime I see that, I have to wonder how many white baby daddies does she have?
Oh man, it's true though, Shay. I mean, like, if you think about it, they just had to, in pro-black spaces, they say decolonize your mind. These women had to get decolonized the hard way, and there's a pun in there.
Right. And she's going to speak to this. She's going to speak to this. So, I mean, I guess you've probably already seen all of it. But yeah, I had to react to this because I was like, this is just a slam dunk. This is just a slam dunk. And at the very least, if ladies can come to the understanding that, like, y'all can't fool anybody anymore other than yourself. Like, everybody knows the whole game. Maybe less will be inclined to do it. I mean, I don't know. I don't really know how this is going to pan out, but
it's going to be a street fight. It's going. What I think is there, as this economy shifts, as you have machine learning going for women's jobs in cubicles and some men's jobs, to be fair, some automation going on. It's going to be a mad scramble for stable and above guys, even working poor guys. And let's see how black women fare when they have to street fight for Becky for her own man.
I just saw another video. Yeah, I just saw another video I was going to react to. It was a white woman talking about how and now you got white women feeling very bold about all of a sudden on these issues. But yeah, she's talking about how black women don't own black men. She was very solid.
I saw it. I covered it. I saw it. I covered it.
Oh, did you cover it?
Yeah.
Yes. And I'm like,
you have to be careful. You have to be careful how you move. I mean, I know we say Black Twitter, but I need people to understand there's not a melanin pass to get into Black Twitter. You don't scan your wrist and then you've been accepted. White folks see your comments. There was a story of a sister talking real greasy about white dudes, and then they did barely any digging. You already look at your face, you already know what it's doing. White boyfriend, right? White boyfriend. And all the white folks in the comments were ripping her a new one, but the most common phrase was typical. Duh, it's always the same thing. I guess she's colonizing the sheets and she's freeing the streets type talk. And white folks, they see the pattern, and they're calling out all of them. They're calling out Ilhan Omar. They're calling out what's her name? Alexandria Azario Cortez. They're calling out all of those women of color that they talk all this crap, but they get white boyfriends and white husbands at home.
And that, I don't know if that's ever happened before, because it's been standard operating procedure for a black woman to swirl and be pro-black for some decades now. That's not really been a problem. That's been kind of like accepted in American society. If I could think back of some of the earliest, even black scholars, black female scholars, or just people advocate civil rights. So it's
because they're not pro-black shade, they're pro-black women. And at least what I will give black women now is very few of them sound like you, Shay. most of them are actually just admitting it straight out now. I'm pro-Black woman. Right. So that's one thing I will say I appreciate is that I'm seeing more and more Black women just straight out say I'm pro-Black woman. Now, how is that going to look post Trump election in 24? I don't know, but you know.
And you know, Mrs. Z, do you notice, because this is what, when Trump got into office, and you had all these Black women who were like losing their mind and big mad at Becky with the good hair because of how white women voted. Now, first of all, I didn't see that ire for white men by and large. We'll start there. But I had this thought of like, I wonder if this is going to impact the swirling and divesting narrative at all. I didn't really think it was. I thought it was still going to continue, but I'm like, wouldn't that be crazy if the 92% who are so big mad about Trump and all of that went right back into the swirling and divesting, knowing that white men are the most politically misaligned with them? And that just shows.
I don't think they care about their politics.
Clearly they don't. Because I'm like, there is nobody who was more politically misaligned than Black women and white men if we look at the numbers. Black men are the most politically aligned to Black women based upon at least the voting patterns. So I'm like, the very fact that like that never comes up. Like I never see them, there's never a talk about that when it comes to dating, divesting, and it's like, especially when you have these young girls with these old white dudes, I best believe a good portion of them are voting for Trump. You got men with money and resources, best believe, because we already know that there's kind of a correlation there. People who have more money and all that tend to.
The young white dudes too. That's the fear right now. The left is throwing a fit right now because they don't really know how to pull the young white men back to the left while telling them, by the way, so we still want you to engage in all your patriarchal obligations without any of the power. Right, and that's essentially what it is. So yeah, there is some political misalignment there. But to be fair and to be clear, women of color, when they mess with white men, they get on the program. So if a Black woman is messing with a white dude, he could be off the wall. She'll get on his program. It won't be too much debate.
Right. Yeah. So, but to me, that shows me that all this raw Black women are saving the naked. It's like it's all that's cap. That's just cap. Seriously. Like clearly, but it speaks for itself. And as I mentioned, it's been capped because you can't blame Black men for destroying the community, but at the same time talk about how you are the ones who have been leading it. Like if you've been leading it, then there has to be some responsibility for the state that it's in. Like you can't do both. You can't do both. It's like, are we going to pick a struggle? Are you going to be like the oppressed one and all these patriarchal Black men? Are you going to be the ones who are outpacing? Like, can we choose a narrative and just stick to it? Because like going back and forth makes it even less believable.
Shay, you're a good Christian woman, so you don't really understand how magic works. These people will play, it's magic, Shay. You will watch them say things that are mutually exclusive, and it makes no sense, the math don't math, and they'll still say it. At the end of the day, what it really is, and I think we really have to come to terms with, I'm gonna say women of color, but I know we're talking about Black women in specific, women of color, Black women in specific, and what it means, what did white colonialism do to their minds? So that's the issue that we're dealing with. What did not being Miss Anne do to women of color over the past 3 to 4 centuries, particularly in our case, Black women in the West? What does it feel like to be looking up at the big house, hoping that you were her, wishing you were her? And now that we're working on 2 centuries out of slavery in America, that aspiration is still there. That's why we call it the myth of white womanhood, right? So
right, the myth, because the thing about it is white women aren't even living that myth. Many of them aren't even this whole.
Most of them not living that life.
Right. That's why I bring on white women to my platform sometimes to be like, can you talk about your life? Because everyone thinks that's a fantasy. Like, I bring on white suburban housewives sometimes. I brought in the one who's like 70. Because I'm like, okay, you're a white San Diego blonde. Is your life amazing? Because I'm like, there's this idea of white womanhood that white women aren't even living. And they're like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, life is hard for them too. They have their own struggles. White doesn't necessarily just mean that they're just living in a cloud somewhere. Like, and here's the thing too. We know class is a big is also a big determining factor in here that never
huge.
Class is never brought up. Like I have, and I mentioned this in previous videos where it's like a Black upper class person is likely to feel more comfortable in affinity with a white upper class person than they are a Black lower class. Like I had a friend of mine who's a Gen Xer. All of her friends are pretty much Black elite, and she just knows this. It's not even debatable. And I was just mentioning certain things to her. Like it was like a store. I think it was like Didi's or something, like a store that you'll find in like the hood or just in like lower socioeconomic areas. And she's like, wait, what? Like Didi's, what's Didi's discounts? I'm like, girl, like, oh yeah, you're around rich folk. So, and she kind of laughed. But it's just like little things like that, like things that are just not a part of the experience, things you don't even think about. Like you're not going to those stores. You're not like dealing with the community. Like you're there. You're in your space with your elite people. And there are issues there. If you're in the Black elite place and you're dealing with white elite, like there's their own issues there, but it's still different. And there's still going to be more class affinity. Your nannies, you're going on your quarterly vacations, the issues with, the housing schedules or whatever. Like it's rich people issues are completely different than poor folk issues. And quite frankly, there's a complete misalignment. But we don't even talk about that at all when we are talking about these things, and they're very important.
So Shay, when I say white women, I make sure to say when Black women say white women, they're really saying, and when you hear any woman of color, but Black women specifically say white women, they're talking about upper middle class and above.
Upper middle class.
So they're saying white women, but they're really saying upper middle class and above. So upper middle class, rich and elite, wealthy white women. That's what they're really saying. But they're saying white women as a catch-all for that in specific.
Right. Absolutely. No, absolutely. Because they don't bring up the white girls who are straight up there in the trailer parks or the rural areas, and
the white girls in the hood that's taking on the Black men.
And the white girls in the hood, that too. So,
and really right now, it's not, if we're gonna be fair about this conversation, it's not really the white women right now. It's really Latinas. Latinas are making a move on everything. Latinas are the ones right now. They're making moves on Black men and white men. Low-key Asian men too.
At this point, it's a free-for-all. And that's why I saw that video. I was like, I need to respond to it. When I saw that video with the Becky with the good hair coming out being like, oh, you don't know Black men. I'm like, they're letting y'all know what time it is. They're letting y'all know that it's a free-for-all at this. I mean, it's been like that, but they're just letting you know. Because she's like, you don't own them, and you haven't for quite some time. And I'm like, well, Shay, to say that.
If we're right about the environment and what we think is coming up, or what's headed towards us, then you better believe other women are going to be scrambling for anywhere they can fit. And it's still, let's be fair, it's still going to be primarily white men that are, women chase after. But for the most part, it's a free-for-all, as you said, and it's open competition. And so if a white woman can't get her ideal white man, she will go with Tyrone. It's a mad scramble right now.
And here's the thing. Tyrone historically has the most lenient standards. He'll just be happy if he got a girl that gives him some water or a plate of food and don't cuss him out. Like, because I think the standard is so generally low with respect to Black men. You can correct me if I'm wrong here. Becky don't really need to do much. Like the pressure. I mean, when I had my friend come on a while back, and she was just like, yeah, like white men basically require a lot. And she was like, she got to a certain point where she's like, I don't even know if I can handle white men because there's just too much associated with it. And I've had my own white friends tell me that. And granted, these ones who are more liberal, who like voted for Kamala and are more leftist, I'll say that. But I've talked to white women who have been like, they actually now, if they are to date a white guy or when they go out, they tend to be more guarded because of a lot of what they may consider patriarchal expectations that still exist with them. And they actually find other races of men to be more accepting and lenient. This is how that white people tell me that.
Why would you be messing with the white man if not that? If you're okay, let's put to bed this right now. If you're looking at his wealth, that's patriarchy. If you care about his height, that's patriarchy. If you care about his physical build, that's patriarchy. If you care about his size, that's patriarchy. If you care about his skin tone, which denotes all of that or signals all of that, that's patriarchy. Let's be very clear, ladies. You do want patriarchy. You just want patriarchy by feminist specifications. That's what you want. Unfortunately, the men don't see a deal in that, so it's a no-go. from the start. There you go, Shay.
Right. And when I interviewed that the professor maybe a month or so ago, and she was very candid about what that's meant and how that's even impacted white women. I think that kind of added a whole new dimension to this, because you have white women who say that they are against the patriarchy or don't want the patriarchy, but then you get to a certain point where you're like, crap, life is kind of hard without it.
And let me make sure to say this too, Shay, and respect to you and your channel. If you earn more than him and that would make you cringe and you're not willing to pay for the male member, then that's also patriarchy. If it makes you cringe thinking about subsidizing a man or you earning more than him, if you're not willing to pay for the male member, that's also patriarchy.
Interesting. Wait, so you're saying if a woman isn't willing to fit the bill for a man, that's patriarchy? I'm saying
if in your mind, all the women who say they practicing hypergamy is built off of patriarchy.
It is.
I'm just saying it in a more crass way, but hypergamy is built off of patriarchy. You can't have special and equal at the same time, ladies.
You cannot. Yeah.
And that's what I'm really saying, Shay. So I know it sounded a little bit convoluted, but if you have an issue with earning significantly more than a male spouse, that's patriarchy.
Okay,
it's not about his insecurity. It's about how you view your femininity, not about his masculinity or the threat. It's about your femininity and how you want to perform that femininity. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, because you're saying that the very fact that you have these hypergamous ideas about money and what a man is supposed to make means that you're coming from patriarchal lens. You're coming from
exactly. Exactly. And I'm not saying that there's anything necessarily wrong with it. What I am saying is you have to be consistent for your own good and your own sanity.
This is why, I've been meaning to, I might do this later on. I've been meaning to cover off some content I've seen from Kimberly Nicole Foster, because I've seen a few videos for her where she talks about how Black feminism is for Black men and how she doesn't want Black feminists, Black women are not looking for men to provide these old patriarchal standards because they can't, it's like a side dick. They can't.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw it.
But then I saw they did the whole lot where I kind of covered off and I did the back and forth between her and the Dr. Tucson Johnson looking at Black male college. And I was very confused because the entirety of the live was basically disrespecting Black men who didn't have college degrees. And it was all like, well, if you just don't have you're not married, you're not a good Black man. And I'm like, wait, what?
I think it's personal for her. It's personal for her because she's given a couple of stories that her mother's friends, a couple of them are college educated and they married men that were blue collar but earned a lot and that kind of, I guess, minimized college. So a lot when they say personal is political, when you hear that, look at Kim Foster. For women like her, it's like, ew, blue collar, ew, disgusting. I'm not saying you don't deserve love, but it won't be me, which is understandable. Like, she's a Harvard grad. I don't expect her to be with the janitor, right? Which is okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But there is a certain level of disgust, and she can't even control it, right? And let's be very clear. Number one. Number two, the college thing to me, as somebody who wants to go back to school, I find interesting because it does go back to class, as you were saying. What ends up happening is that women writ large, they achieve this type of education, they earn their middle management money, and what they're expecting is now that allows for them to go for the top shelf man. Think of top shelf alcohol. That is what they're thinking, right? So it's if I make McDonald's money, then I get a Walmart man. If I'm making middle management money, I should get middle management and above man. Right. And that's not how life works. What they don't appreciate is as you climb up that ladder as a man or woman, you crowd out. If you're looking up, you're crowding out more and more people. And that applies to women also. The problem is the men are far more likely to date and marry down within the Black community and out of the Black community than the women are. This is where Black women get all of their wires crossed.
Yes.
And women, as a group, actually. Mm-hmm.
Well, and I mean, you hit the nail on the head. And I mentioned before, as a college educated woman and who has come from a long line of educators, right? I'm not against education, but I recognize that has literally nothing to do with making someone marriageable or making someone desirable with respect to a man. I've never met a man that's gotten turned on by the fact that a woman has a bachelor's or a master's. Not once. It's never happened. Now, you correct me if I'm wrong if you've seen that before, Mr. Z, but I'm like, I don't know men to inherently be attracted to women because of the
It's the plus. It's the fries to the burger. Your femininity is the burger. Your kindness is the burger. Your fitness is the burger. Your demeanor is the burger. Your education is the fries. It's the plus. We could do without the fries. We want the fries. We like the fries, right? Some of us, we have to have the burger and the fries. But you can't come to us with just fries. And you can't make up for not having the burger with fries, just fries. And what is happening is you're meeting a lot of, and this is not just a black women thing, mean, snarky, materialistic, consumerist, entitled brats masquerading as adults, but they're really 12-year-olds throwing a temper tantrum that their education does not allow for them to get the elite man.
Right.
And that's what's really going on right now.
And you know what? I always wonder, like, why is there never the question of why the men in your class aren't approaching you? Or the men who are you're around in these elite colleges? Like, why is that? Like, because I never hear that. I never hear, crap, these men in my classes or the people that I'm doing study with or whatever, like, they're not approaching me. Like, that never comes up. It's just, oh, well, black men aren't leveling up. But I'm like, well, the ones who are there, they're getting with people. Why aren't they getting with you? Why aren't they getting with you? Why is that not a question? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, the whole class thing, it's my fault. He come out background. Like, matter of fact, let me get into a quieter place. Give me a minute.
Yeah, you're fine. Why you're doing that?
Yeah,
Okay.
Go ahead, Shay. Go ahead.
No, I'll say why you're doing that because I want to play a little more of the video if you need to get.
Perfect. I'll listen to it. Go ahead.
Okay.
Maybe a lot of y'all don't want to because of the fact that y'all want to continue to think that they're the ones that are going to save y'all. I hate to break it to a lot of y'all, but these white men do not like y'all. Like, they don't really like y'all. They like the fact that they have somebody who looks at them as if they're all, you know what I'm saying? Because a lot of y'all do look at, especially if you're in a relationship with them, a lot of y'all do look at them as if they are the top of the top, right?
Okay. You know what's hella funny? Because I did a video on this. What was it? A few months ago, where it was a white dude who was just like, a lot of white men don't really like y'all like that. They fetishize you guys, but they're not really like into black women. I just did a video on that. So it's funny to hear her be like, they're not even really into you either. And listen, we've already established that black women, by and large, aren't necessarily into white men as far as like their white menness. What makes them a white man intrinsically, their views, their desires, or their politics. They don't really care about that as much as they care about what the life they think they can give them. But it sounds like it goes both ways. And again, we're supposed to speak generalities.
Shay, an attractive black woman is an attractive woman. So of course the white guy is going to see you as attractive also. Can he marry you? Can he have children with you? Can he bring you to the family get together? Can he introduce you to his friends as more than someone he's just having fun with right now? Right? Like the racial hierarchy is still in place as much as certain black folks don't want to hear that. And we have some of us in the black community, we minimize the racial element of it all as just excuses. And that sounds good, and I get it. You don't want people to be stuck, you don't want people to use them as an excuse, but it's still a thing. And that plays out in our interactions with the opposite races, the different races in America. That includes our intimacy. Right? Go ahead.
I've always wondered, shout out to you with the super chat. I'm gonna read it in a bit. I've always wondered what percentage of white men, the small percentage who do actually marry black women, like what percentage of them are actually in the upper class versus like middle lower class? Because even if I think of my own life anecdotally, the black women that I know who married out, and listen, I have friends of mine who are in interracial relationships, love them to death. They have a beautiful relationship with their husband, and no shade. I don't see them going out and like hating on black men or hating on the black community. They fell in love with someone who wasn't black, whatever. But also I've noticed that people that I know who have done that, they're never marrying wealth. Now, of course, this is my anecdotal experience, but like I don't see them marrying like the kind of idealized hypergamous lifestyle that we actually see. I'm seeing them marrying like blue collar guys or people who are just, kind of starting off don't come from a ton of wealth or don't come from a stable background really at all. Like lower middle class or just lower class white men. I've noticed that, and I'm like, I wonder, because we do understand that race loyalty tends to be more of a thing as the income increases. And so if there's less pressure on white men who are poor, quite frankly, or middle class to have to try to maintain whiteness because they don't have a legacy or money to think about. I don't know. It's just I've wondered about that, but I'm not sure.
No, but it makes sense. No, exactly. So what? There's a few things going on right now. Whether it's class, whether it's education and race, what's happening right now is because of women's hypergamy. As they entered college and university, they would only marry college and university grads. So what's happening is class is becoming more and more of a chasm. It's not a gap anymore. It's a chasm. So the college educated folks are marrying other college educated folks because of the women. I'm sorry, ladies, we're gonna have to keep it 100, right? The men will be college educated, and you can work at McDonald's, still try to make something happen. But that's not where we've been over the past, give or take 2-3 decades, right? Definitely 4 decades as women have attended college and university more and more. Okay, fine. Then you have the racial element of it all, right? Which is what you're getting at, which is are Black women able to access upwardly mobile, upper middle class and above white guys in any significant number?
Yes, that is specifically my question. That is my question.
I would argue for fun, yes, but not for marriage in any real specific. No, okay. When you did the panel with Chantel Monet, Chantel, you did it with who else? Riva and Danica Marie. There's a certain look that those guys, and excuse my background, I'm sorry about that. There's a certain look that those guys will entertain, and it was pretty much all you ladies, right? It was pretty much all you ladies on the panel. For the most part, that particular white dude, and I live in South Florida, I see those guys every day, whether they're lost white, for those of you that don't know, white Anglo-Saxon Protestant whites, whether they're Jewish white, whether they're Latino white, I see these guys every single day.
Right.
They're not walking around with Black women for the vast majority, most part. Now, if he's your boss and y'all want a sneaky link, that might be possible. But is he marrying you? Once again, the racial element of it all, the class element of it all. And in America, Black people were meant to be the permanent underclass. Nobody forgot that. To be fair, Shay, for Black people, Black women in specific, to have any significant chance at upper mobile white guys and race not be a factor, you would actually have to dismantle white supremacy all the way, which is half the reason why the women want to mess with that guy in the first place.
Right. It's this simulation, and that's why it's like, that's what I found so fascinating about the book, The Dating Divide, which my husband reminded me. He was like, "You have to." I think I told you I was supposed to do an interview, and then I think COVID happened. And
yes.
But he was like, "You should still try to do that interview because
I agree with him.
It's still very compelling because it pretty much elucidated all these ideas and all these concepts that we're talking about right now that have been hidden, or at least I think in the era of today, when now you have things, multicultural shows, and you have Black people that can be on sitcoms with white people, that there's this whole, to a certain extent, there's this illusion of diversity and inclusion that people think that is like, oh, that was back in the civil rights era.
Inclusivity, and it's really not. It's not. If you're outside of America, and you're outside of the West, when you watch Western television, particularly American television, you really think we're really on some kumbaya thing in America. And like, does it happen? Absolutely. Is it a thing? No. As a matter of fact, most white folks still report that they don't have any Black friends.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and it's
so go ahead.
And we understand that some of this is also, there's obviously a systemic component to this. There's obviously a systemic component to this that's been going on. I mean, even if you think of something as simple as the GI Bill, and we know the amount of Black men who fought in the war who were not able to receive what they needed to, and how that one decision alone completely impacted an entire generation of Black families that could have put them solidly in the middle class, and that could have been wealth that was passed down that would have maybe had some more Black families around white families or in those suburban communities, and that could have really changed things. But it's like, that's just one policy on top of countless policies that we know that have pretty much kept things segregated in a very strong way, even to this today.
Shay, I want to give you a story. I have a cousin, rest in peace. He graduated from Harvard also.
Okay.
And one of his exes, so my cousin looked a lot like me, but way more fit, and he was a boxer. So and no beard, right? So and he, Harvard grad, and he was messing around, with some of the Jewish women or whatever.
Oh.
And one of his exes turned around and got married. Okay, fine. And if you've seen her husband, pudgy Jewish white guy, okay.
Yeah.
This goes to what the young lady that you're reviewing right now, what she said in one of her clips about y'all couldn't get the aesthetic y'all wanted with the beard, the Versace shirt, and the 6'2" tall. So just any brat will do. This is a woman thing. This is a woman thing in general, a woman of color thing. When it's a black man, they would prefer you have a certain physique, a certain height, a certain swag about you. But any old white dude to go, any old white dude to do. It's because the race is the patriarchy, the color is the patriarchy. Him being white and man is the patriarchy. It is the manhood. That's why Dr. Tommy Curry says man, not particularly for black men, but I would expand that out to men of color, specifically black men. You're not white men, so you're not a man.
Yeah,
right?
That's why the standards are different. And I think it varies. Like, I think black women who are into Latino men tend to have their height standards go out the door. There's this one video. Shout out to Malarkey, another follower of mine. I have to review. Malarkey sent me a video of it was a Hispanic man with long hair, and he's talking about how he loves black women. I think the name of it is like I Love Black Women. And the whole video was about why he loves black women. And then he's talking and he's like, it's not that I don't like Latina women. It's just black women are always coming on to me and they love my hair. And it was like, it's good to feel wanted. It's good to get desired. So I go for the women who want me, pursue me, come after me. And that just happens to be black women. So he's had a lot of black girlfriends strictly because black girlfriends are always pursuing him. This is a short Hispanic man with long hair. And he's like, and they love my hair. And I'm like, but the heightism goes, you like Latino men, that's not an issue. It's not an issue. But black men got to be at least 6 foot. At least. Minimum. So, okay. Let's continue.
And if we know our fucking history, they've always thought that they were the top of the top. So the fact that a white man has a black woman who is actually making them feel and look as if they are the top of the top, how do you fucking think that that white man's going to treat you and continuously treat you to have you stay stuck with your oppressor? This is gonna ruffle some feathers. I already know. But I'm gonna talk about this a lot more because it needs to be talked about. Because I am one black woman who has dealt with white men, and a lot of the shit that I can tell y'all, I hope a lot opens up your guys' fucking minds, because it's not what y'all think it is.
Now, I'm still so curious how she went from being down for the swirl and love is love to now white men are oppressed. I'm really curious because that's a rather dramatic change. What's going on? It seems like you got kicked off. You guys, real quick, the drop-in was for, just so you guys know, the drop-in was for Mr. Z, just so you guys know. My 2 cents, $9.99. Shout out to you again. It says they get these degrees thinking they're moving up classes, but still trying to twerk like the Rhode Island representative. Their actions in large numbers don't match upper class. That's the other thing too. That is another thing.
Yeah, I remember that. Just
because you got a degree don't mean you got class. Don't mean that you even understand. Because you have women aspiring to be in spaces and places that they wouldn't even know how to conduct or, handle themselves in. They wouldn't even know how to act or be in an upper class space. They wouldn't understand the vernacular,
To act in the class position, you have to have discipline. You can't be a subscriber to negative liberty, no constraints, no restraints, do what you want, how you want.
Right.
And also represent class a specific way. So if the goal is an upper tier, upper class white guy, or any man, to be frank with you, because even the brothers, when you go that far up, they demand that the women in their presence move a specific way. So if this is the goal, you can't also be all about negative liberty, do what you want, nobody could tell me what to do. Once again, these things are mutually exclusive.
Right.
So this is why, for all of you that ever wonder, why you have these black female celebrities that get to a certain type of money, and yet you don't ever see them mingling with a certain type of man, right? I'm not saying these guys might not be doing something with these women in secret, but you don't see them publicly with Robert Smith, or you don't see them publicly with a certain type of what's his name? Stewart. I forgot, David Stewart. I can't remember the brother's name. He's also a billionaire. But yeah, you don't see those type of men with these women. And it's the class element. She has the money. She's quote unquote elevated herself to that income bracket or to that wealth that tax bracket. But her comportment, her demeanor, her speech, it just doesn't comport. It just doesn't go. I'm not going to be arguing with you on the red carpet. I'm not going to be arguing with you. You see what I'm saying? We're not going to have a Will and Jada type of thing going on.
I mean, even if you think of Michelle Obama, the way she's breaking every protocol,
you went there, Shay.
Everything that would be associated with the decorum that you would expect with a former first lady, everything, and she's breaking it down, and she's happy about it. She is not. Yes. It seemed, I don't say it was like a vendetta, but there is no. She's not ignorant. She's not unaware. She is consciously doing this. She's like, I don't.
She was never supposed to be second to Barack. That's the problem. We said this in the Black Manosphere. Barack was supposed to be an attorney in Chicago, earning $250,000 a year, and know his place under Michelle. Barack had aspirations greater than just being Michelle's wife. I mean, I said that the right way, the wrong way. Anyway, Freudian slip. Anyway, so Freudian slip. There you go. Mr. Z just said the wrong thing the right way. Anyway, so Barack was supposed to be okay with being Michelle Obama's husband, and that's it. Earning his $250,000, $300,000 a year, and be okay. He had greater aspirations, and he achieved that. The problem Michelle has now is she will always and forever be Miss Barack Obama, Miss Obama. There's nothing Michelle can ever do outside of being president herself that will ever make her not Miss Michelle Obama. Once again, Obama. And I think that's eating at her. That's eating at her. Go ahead, Ron.
Okay, interesting. Because I've heard, I've heard some men allude to the fact that they believe that she's jealous. I mean, it's hard to really know without fully knowing the inner workings of what happens behind closed doors. We don't know all the details. We just know what is seen. And I've always wondered, I'm like, is she actually being used for a political cause, and she's just playing a role, and behind closed doors she's, I've always had a lot of questions about that, because obviously we all know, everybody in the world can see that she's acting outside of what would be the norm. And my main issue with her has been the message and the narrative that is anti-family. And then I think that doesn't and cannot be applied to your average Black woman, period. And I'm like, why is there this push for her to try to very much connect with the sisterhood? Is that just her own personal thing, or are they trying to prime Black women for something else? Like, because I'm like,
it's a really good question.
Yes, because she is not an average, typical Black. She's not. As far as there's no higher status, there's no more. Well, there's nothing higher that you could achieve as far as a class and status and
short of being president herself. There's nowhere else to go.
There's nowhere else to go. And I'm like, I mean, just from the perspective of being a married woman, like, I don't think you take on your husband's last name. It's like, that's what you do. Who cares? Like, it doesn't take away what you may do personally.
But Shay, you grew up in a 2-parent household, Shay. Shay. Yeah, true indeed. But you were fed a pill and you spit it out. Michelle was fed a pill and she swallowed it.
Well, and here's the thing about it, because it's like, I've been very candid that it wasn't that I necessarily, like, to be a Black woman growing up in America, you pretty much were born up under feminism, with the exception of maybe if you're in particular places, but like, you pretty much were fed feminine. All of us were, including me. Now, I think because of my spiritual convictions and believing to actually live based upon the Bible, like I've had to really shed or look at some of the beliefs that I've had and being like, this isn't line up with the Word of God. This doesn't apply to me. But it's like that is just the reality. Like to be born in America as a woman is to know that your default setting is feminism on some level. Now, to what degree, I think varies and changes based upon your upbringing, based upon your environment, based upon perhaps your particular goals, aspirations. But all women, I mean, this society is a feminist. America is a feminist society. I mean,
Yes.
you know what I mean? I think that's not really debatable.
Let me actually forward this, Shay, and I'm going to cover something. I'm going to recover something, and I'm going to let you know. I'm going to email you, and we might have to tag team that because I'll say this. I started looking at feminism more and more as a tool of the elite to buffer class more and more, and I have some things that kind of speak to that I've researched, and it's over a year old now. It's maybe even going on 2 years at this point.
Okay.
But yeah. So I really do think elite rich white dudes have used women's upward mobility as a counterinsurgency tool, essentially.
Okay.
Particularly in the Black community. And when you speak about Black women and feminism in particular, it diverted a lot of attention, a lot of money and resources. And so what we have now is a even more fractured community along sex and gender lines that poses even less of a threat to the dominant society and makes less demands of the dominant society because it can't really get its act together because it's spinning its wheels because we're too busy saying say her name. We're too busy saying decenter man. We're too busy giving she-ro stories. And what that does is it minimizes the plights of boys and men in particular who are what intersectionality did, and I'm sorry to kind of, if it seems like I'm derailing, I'm not really trying to do that right now. With intersectionality, because when people think of intersectionality, they think of literally intersecting oppressions, right? They think of an intersection of you're going north or you're going west or you're going northeast or southwest or something. No. Think of it more as a layered cake. And the more you can say, I am a Black LGBTQ woman who has some type of neurodivergent, I joke with my lady and I say astigmatism, and all of that. What it does is it just keeps on stacking and stacking. And by the time you get to the 5th and 6th thing, you're standing taller than everyone else, and now people need to defer to you. You are now the white man in the room. That's what intersectionality has become. And what that does to Black boys and Black men in the specific intersection of being Black plus man is it benign neglects all of their plights. That's how you have Black men and Black boys in many ways being quote unquote left behind. Now we know that they still earn more than Black women, but being quote unquote left behind as Black women climbed up that corporate ladder, as women at writ large bought more homes, Black women specifically in the Black community. That's how you have that, right? Because what has happened is we have, at one point Goldman Sachs $10 billion for Black women. You have these initiatives for Black women in specific, Black girls in specific. Mr. Z doesn't know how much I'm opposed to that. If we didn't already see what that causes. What that causes is a hyper independence in Black women that actually ends up hurting them in the long run. It would have been a whole different, Shay, we would have been having a different conversation is if this 40, 50 year project, more like 50 years, maybe 60-year project, actually amounted to something more than middle management jobs and baby luxury cars. If Black women had more to show for this than a couple of luxury cars, a couple of luxury bags, some entry-level luxury cars and middle management positions, then we would have been having a different conversation. But for the most part, that's the ceiling. Yes, you have Oprah. Yes, you have Michelle Obama. Yes, you have Susan Rice and Condoleezza Rice. Those people do exist. You have Shirley Chisholm. Yes, those people do exist. With that, for the most part, the ceiling for Black women, if you're lucky, is middle management and HR rep. Right.
Well, and this kind of opens up another conversation, right? On, what is it? like masculinity versus femininity. And my husband made this statement. I'll say this is him. This isn't me. Where he was like, you know, just looking at what's going on in the LA riots and just a lot of the political unrest, and he was like, you know, if World War III breaks out, there's going to be a lot of studs looking for real niggas, basically, right? You're going to have a lot of these really, like, it's like you're going to have
Jay,
a lot of
quiet is kept. Your husband's right, but quiet is kept. In the hood, all across America, studs are cheating on their girlfriends with dudes.
With real,
one of the most open kept secrets in the black community is both of them are cheating on each other with dudes. The femme and the stud. That's one of the most open kept secrets in all the hoods in America. Somebody tell me I'm lying. Go ahead.
And I'm like, listen, where are we? Where was I at? Oh, I was just at. There's this thing in Oakland called First Friday. It happens every first Friday every month, and it was like I don't know if it was Pride Month, that it was like it was just overrun with lesbians, black gay women. It's like, okay, and a lot of them dressed very masculine, whatever. And and even when I listen to some queer black women, some like influencer or whatever, who talk about gender or talk about how they identify themselves, and you have to open up a whole theory book to define what a woman is, what a man is, whatever. I've always said that under the threat of war, or when the comfortable society that's been set up continues to disintegrate, I want to see if they're still holding the same language. If you turn on the water faucet and water didn't come out no more. If you turn on
it's over.
You know what I mean? At that point, the plumber's about to be looking real handsome.
Jay, let me tell you how quick this changes. The AC doesn't come on anymore in those tall buildings.
Right.
It changes like that. The supply chain goes to crap, and your sanitary pads are no longer available or easily accessible. It's over. That's it. As a matter of fact, that happens and it's a done deal. It's a done deal. Yeah, it's done.
And here's the thing about it. The reality is, sorry, give me 1 second. I gotta plug in my I think I saw a member in there. Okay, if you're a member, let me see. If you're a member, I have a few more minutes, and I'm actually probably gonna have to wrap this up. Give me 1 second. My computer is like getting low. Sorry. Okay. All right. So members only. If you guys want to call in, if you are a member, feel free to. Or Mr. Tucson, I know you've been sharing a lot of support too. If you want to call in, feel free to. So you guys, members only, and then my 2 cents. Feel free to call in if you want. Sorry, I meant to say that earlier, then I got distracted. But here's the thing about it: nobody asks who a man is in a time of war. Like, that's not debatable. When society falters and there's a threat of violence, everybody's looking to the man. Even if you think of like the more individual scenarios where it's like, God forbid, something happens to a family, like a kid goes missing or there's DV or whatever. Like when there's a threat of violence or there's a catastrophe, everyone is always looking to a man, and there's never ever a theoretical debate about what that is. So I think quite frankly, a lot of these conversations are a result of a comfortable society that has been created by men. And the reason I brought that up is because you talked about the last 50, 60 years of women having access to these pushy jobs, but not necessarily having an infrastructure or a cohesive Black infrastructure community that reflects that. And I think that inherently goes back to, honestly, the mindset of women and how I think women are more by nature individualistic. And and there could be debate about that. It could be biology. If women tend to be more focused on themselves because of kids and because of women being the ones who carry kids. I mean, some do bury actually, but you know what I mean. Like just biologically how we're created and that. And so I've kind of heard this idea of women that tend to be more selfish because of the childbearing, and that's kind of needed in order to make sure that kids have like the food and the necessities of the material necessities to grow. Whereas men are just, I don't know if it's socialization, if it's how they're created, but just tend to be a little less selfish or tend to have more of a mindset of like doing something for the greater cause. It's not uncommon to see a man lose his life to save someone. If you think of firefighters, if you think of the jobs where men are actually putting their life at risk, it's overwhelmingly men.
And the dirty jobs. I mean, not to incriminate myself, but reckless. But something to know too, Shay, is in my line of work, you can count the women. because they don't want to do it.
Yeah.
You can count them because they don't want to do it, which is okay, fine. I get it. With that, let's rewind a little bit. What happens when you have a neoliberal form of capitalism where Gordon Gekko in the 80s is saying, and I know it's a fictional character, but this played out in real life, greed is good. What happens when you have a certain brand of radical feminism leak into the mainstream? So when you have radical feminism plus neoliberal capitalism running the same race for the past 40-ish years, and you have hyper individuality being pushed by the elites as a way to disaggregate unionization efforts. And I'm not just saying that work related and labor related. I'm saying that as an aggregate of people, when you see a certain type of injustice, what happens when all of that comes together at the same time over the past, give or take, 5-ish decades?
Right.
I would argue we hyper focus on how the men respond to that environment. What we do a whole lot less, we don't do it at all, is consider how the women respond to that. The competitiveness of women, both towards men and towards women, right? What does that look like? And I would argue a lot of that looks like a certain type of sabotage towards women, particularly young women. There's literally a video, and you might have seen it, Shay, where a woman is in her car and she's telling other women, young women, that if you find him attractive, go ahead and sleep with him. She literally said that. Say that again? A black woman, she looks like she's about middle-age-ish, maybe? About middle-age-ish? Yeah.
I just saw a video of a woman. She had to be like a boomer at least, if not silent generation, go up to a young black girl and be like, I'm married 3 times and I'm happy about myself, but don't ever settle. This 50-50, I don't know what these men talk about, but you don't ever settle. You a queen. You were pride. This is an old black woman giving the worst relationship advice ever. And you have to know that she said that she was married 3 times.
Shane, let me say this real quick, and then we'll have H Rose. We have to really come to terms with the fact that we've raised a couple generation of women who can never see themselves in the wrong. I, as a man, like, my diet is trash. I got this whole gut on me now, and I would never tell young dudes, "Hey, bro, eat like Z. Don't eat like Z." Right? Like I would never tell young dudes, "Hey, if you're on track for something, get distracted, do something else, be like Z." No, Z is about to double back on school in his early 40s, it looked like. But what I'm saying all of that, and I'm being a bit self-deprecating to prove a point. The point is, where are the women saying that to other women?
Yes.
Where are the women saying that? Where are the women, the older black women saying, look, I fumbled my marriage and I regret it. And I've been spending the past 20 years miserable, putting a fake smile on. Where are those women? No, what women do is say, no, I got married and I was miserable in my marriage. Don't get married. See, that's what they'll do.
Yes,
they won't say the part that indicts them in the situation, their responsibility in destroying this. And that, I'll just pause right there because I'm about to go on a whole rant. Go ahead. Shit,
that's why I brought in the black. That's why I brought in the black feminists. That's why I brought in the black feminist, because I was like, remember the white black feminist, the white feminist, the ex-white feminist, because I listened to her and I heard accountability, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, she didn't sit up there and try to lie. She was like, I did all the things basically feminism said that you're supposed to do, and it screwed up a lot of aspects of my life, and there's things that I actually regret. And she's now, better, you do better. And she's, moving on now and making peace with things. But it was like, she didn't sit up there and lie and act like she never made mistakes. She was like, actually, I did make mistakes and it cost me, and here's how. And I'm like,
Shay, let me thank you. Let me thank you, actually. So Shay thanked me earlier. Let me thank Shay, because Shay gave me a heads up and she sent me an email, and thank you for that, Shay. Thank you for always shouting me out. I always shout you out too. Shay is like my sister in this space. So thank you very much for always being inviting towards me and whatnot. And yes, Z grew up in a 2-parent household also. Maybe it's just us, Shay. Maybe we know what they're supposed to look like. Ms. Z, well, soon to be Ms. Z. Hopefully she's not listening. She grew up in a 2-parent household also. And that's not an indictment, but I think there's a way we saw our parents, for the good and bad of it all. and they weren't perfect, and neither are we, but there's a dance that we saw. And I think what's happening now is people are trying to hodgepodge together something, and it may not even be marriage. I think that's why you're hearing these folks use the word partnership and queer. I wanted to say that earlier. That's something that you hear. Queer. I really want to get into why they're using queer. I might have to do that on my channel soon.
Yeah.
And what they mean by the word queer, which is like this hodgepodge of pieces of Lego blocks where you just fit these different things in, and this is the relationship. And clearly that's not working. So whatever.
Right.
I'll pause right there.
All good. Well, okay, what's going on? Is it H Rebels?
Hey, how you doing, Shay? Shout out to you.
Yeah.
Hello to you, your husband. Hope you guys are doing well. Shout out to Mr. T. One of the smartest men on YouTube.
I don't know about all that, but thank you.
Hey man, I hear you talking. Sometimes you're talking over people's heads. You have to be at least a semi-intellectual in order to get half of the stuff you're talking about. There's a few of you guys who are like that, but we are here at the Shay Sade, grouping. We understand what it is you're talking about, so we're good. But at any rate, I just came up to pop up and to say, hey, look, I know you said the title is Reformed Swirler Divested, but essentially us failed Swirler Divester, back to the pro-black pipeline, right?
Yes.
That's just really what it is. Because if they could actually have any success over there, then they would stay over there. But they're having issues and problems, right? Some of them are coming out of it okay. They're doing well. They're doing what they're supposed to do. But for the most part, they spend way too much time chasing after non-black men, and then when it fails, then it's like, oh, okay, well, I'll go to black men, expecting black men to just kind of accept them and be here and be ready. And my wanting to and advice and essentially a light directive. I know I can't give anybody orders, but I'll give you a light directive: stay away. Do not accept the reach back. Okay. Because this is what I know as a man. If you're somebody's second, third, and fourth choice, then you're just going to be, you're just going to be miserable if you link up with them, either in a relationship and especially in a marriage. Okay. They really want non-black men, but when they can't do that, then they'll be like, okay, I'm 32, it's not working, I got to go to black men. That's not what you want.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're saying you think there's no such thing as a reformed swirler, or put another way, you think the swirler to pro-black pipeline is basically a failed swirler who figured out that she wasn't able to get what she wanted from white men, and then now is trying to like rebrand herself. That's what you think?
Yeah, it's a rebranding. Because it's like it's like I'm celibate now. I'm a born again virgin. All of that stuff, right? It's the rebranding. Okay. I'm going to wait until marriage to engage in intercourse, but look, you've been being reckless for the last 15 years, but now all of a sudden now you want dudes to wait.
Kev, after 3 kids, I'm gonna wait until marriage for intercourse.
Yeah. And I'm just saying, black men, you're an idiot if you fall for that. Do not play this game, and go get yourself somebody who's been who's young, ready, willing, and you're the first choice. Not second, third, and fourth.
Second, third.
Or oh my gosh, I need a retirement plan. That's happening too.
Must be the retirement.
Shay, thank you for bringing that up, Kev. I'll call you H Rebels. I'll call you by your screen name. But Shay, I think that's the next thing, and I think we should warn both young men and young women. Actually, to be fair, to even black women, especially for this, as this environment squeezes people are going to go scattering, and if you got a modicum of stability. We have been entirely too loud, especially women, dear black women, have been entirely too loud. These white dudes will rub up against you, right? And whisper sweet nothings in your ear for the stability. If you're a nurse, if you're a teacher that's making some okay money and you didn't get fired, I want to stress that for all of us black folks, those Latinas, those Latinos, right? Those white folks, they will be moving over here. If you're a stable brother or sister, they're going to be looking for a comfortable place to land. I want black folks to be careful. These folks are going to go scattering as this market changes. I'll say, and I'll pause right there.
White women, Hispanic, Latino. That's why I said that one clip of the white girl who came out and was just like, "But black women don't own black men." I was like, they're getting bold. They're telling you. they're telling you what time it is. Like they are warning you ahead of time what's about to happen.
Yeah,
They're
essentially.
warning you ahead of time.
Well, so somebody did this nice little video where they were talking about how, well, you guys, you black guys, you know that these white women are playing y'all. What they do is they find a black man who's got some promise and who's on his way up and being successful, and they know, and they attach it. I'm like, well, okay, so if y'all know that, then just get the black women, y'all just do the same thing. Just don't let them beat you.
Through. Black women have horrible PR. We have the worst PR imaginable. And the thing about it is, you have other races of women who do the same foolery. They just have a much better reputation.
And the women are all up in the comments agreeing with this. It was a dude, he was pandering to women, right? Pandering to black women, saying, oh, you know, this is what the white men are doing. And I'm like, okay, well, great. That's very fine. And I was literally the only person in the comments that said, if y'all guys know the strategy, just copy the strategy and beat them to it. Not only that, they're beating you on your...
I think Shay is talking about her fellow Californian, Kim Kardashian, because that's the face. Whenever I think about that play, that's the face right there. She didn't turn the tape into a goddamn empire, $1 billion empire.
That's what I'm saying.
Go ahead.
Even, and I understand some of this is not because of us, because the representation of blackness in media in the West has never been positive, and so some of this was things that were pushed on us, but a lot of this stuff is stuff that wasn't. A lot of this was just like, y'all don't take life seriously enough. You're so nonchalant. You're so it's not that serious that now nobody takes you seriously, including yourself. But life is things don't work out.
Well, part of their dumb strategy is, well, you know, I'm black, so I can come back to black men whenever, and they'll be available. And that's just not true. Even if they're available, they're not going to, why would they want you? Now that so, you know, again, this knucklehead is sitting here going, well, you know, the white women, they found a productive black man who's on his way up. He may not be there yet, but they're gonna attach to him. They're gonna stay with him. They're gonna, you know, be with him through all the hard times, so that way they get the payoff. I'm like, well, if y'all know that, then why don't y'all just beat them to it? Like, it's the dumbest thing ever. If you sitting here giving it, you explaining the strategy, you explaining what they do, but you're not gonna actually take advantage of the strategy. Look, black women have home field advantage. You grow up around black men and black culture, shared experience, you know, all the issues and problems associated with blackness, but you're going to let somebody else come into your home field and you know, take away your advantage and beat you.
Right.
But Kev, Rebels, what happens when you don't value your home field?
Oh, there you go.
Right?
That's it.
What happens when you don't value the field, when you let the grass grow, when you let the gate get disheveled, what happens when you let the pavement in front of the field get all type of cracks in it? What happens when you don't value your home field? When you're actually looking over at the other field. That's what ends up happening.
Which not even trying to, which by the way, they're not even trying to let you into play.
Right.
On their field.
Say that.
But you're trying to force your way onto their field, onto their playing field. Okay, but anyway, I don't want to overdo that. I just kind of want to.
Sometimes you got to water your own grass.
Yeah. I know somebody else just came up. I got one more thing, but I'll let somebody else go.
Yeah, the 18th letter. What's going on, 18th letter? It's good to see you.
Shay, I got to flame 18th real quick, Shay. 18th over here looking like Dave Hollister, his fellow Chicagoan in the picture. I'm just saying, go ahead. He know what music video I'm talking about. You look just like Dave Hollister in the thumbnail. Go ahead.
Hey, how's everybody doing? Shout out to you, Miss Shay. I got to give a shout out to the brother H Rebels. I got to get a shout out to Mr. Z. How's everybody doing today?
Good.
What's up with you?
That's good. That's good. I gotta agree with the brother H Rebels, aka KFC. Like the way that you see like this divestment back to pro-blackness pipeline, it's like it's just something that it just grinds my gears. It just grinds my gears because I think we can recall, Miss Shay, based off of the content that you put up as a recap of the divestment content, like even 2 to 3 years ago.
Yeah.
When a lot of these women thought that they were going somewhere, when they thought that they was leaving black men in the dust, they was dancing on our imaginary graves. They was dancing. Like, and I wonder, how many of these women, if, the white man told them, well, if you want to be with us, you have to help us destroy black men, how many of them will go for it?
Absolutely, which is sad, but that's a good question. That's a good question.
Like I'm not, and I hate to say it because but I'm not the forgiving type. I don't forget or forgive. I'm not that type at all. Because from what I've observed over the past 5 years, I'm like, if you had the opportunity to slit my throat, you would. If you could, you would. The only thing that stopped you was the men that you wanted. So, like, like a lot of these women, I agree. They should not be accepted back. Don't even look in a black man's direction at all. I think they should keep going along with white men until they can get it right, or until they can. You just see like the level of self-hatred that has been like displayed. Just even getting the bottom shelf brads and trying to hide behind the quote unquote black wife effect with that. Getting the all like none of these guys is like Brad Pitt or anybody else like that, but you'll swear up and down that they were 10 times better than black men. And some of this hatred is not even hatred based off experiences. Some of this hatred is just manufactured, been spread through propaganda and passed down from other women.
Right.
18th and Shay, could I give y'all something to think about when it comes to what you're saying? 18th, I see the masses of black women in specific. This is a women of color thing. They're throwing a temper tantrum, but black women can't do anything to white men or white women. That's the issue. The only person they can affect with the anger that they don't get to be Miss Ann, Becky, right, Miss Cartwright, is black men. They're angry at all of us. They're angry at white men for not choosing them or not elevating them, even if they're attracted to black men, not elevating them to white womanhood. They're angry at white women, especially after this past election. That stab in the back was real as hell, right? And then they're angry at black men for also not elevating them. And how dare you, if you're a rich black man, how dare you look at anyone but a black woman because you owe black women forever for slavery, because you got her in the same country, on the same planet, in the same solar system, and in the same galaxy as white women. So how dare you? You owe her forever. Let every black man understand this. So I guess what I'm saying, 18th and Shay and H Rebels, is black women are throwing a temper tantrum and they're angry at the world. But the only one that they can affect with that anger is black men. Because we're the closest to them. And that clearly, obviously, that's for the black men that's still around, which is still the majority of us. And for the most part, it's always going to be the majority of us. I don't know if I will ever see a day well, Asian women did it, but I don't know if we'll ever see a day where the majority of black men are not intermingling with black women. So black men will be the ones to take that heat, right? For the most part. And I'll pause right there. Yeah.
You know what, on that, I would still argue that black men, by and large, still really believe in or still really value their blackness or their community. And, there's a question of whether or not this is just more a man thing. Because like, even if we think of the voting patterns of men, other races of men, like men just tend to be more traditional and tend to, I think, value more culture and value maintaining those things, where women, generally speaking, tend to be more hypergamous and are open to the highest bidder, right? So my argument is that I think women intrinsically are kind of, honestly, up for the highest bidder, up for sale. That they're not as culturally loyal as men are inherently. But with that, because you mentioned how like you don't see black men not dealing with black women. It's like, yeah, because there's still black men out there in the day who just really value their culture, and they still really value like having black kids, having a black reality, like, and so now they might go abroad, they might leave America, the West, they might do something else, but there's some who are never going to give up on that because like they can't give up on themselves. But I think women are programmed a little differently. They're more like, what makes me happy, what's the best for my child, but they're not thinking about like the larger communal or community, because women don't usually build societies. Men build societies, and in order to build a society, you have to have the mindset that is beyond just yourself and what you want. You have to kind of have more of a humanitarian, if you will, or honestly, the mindset of a leader. You have to have the mindset of a leader, and I think that's something that I think more men have. Even when we look at the expectations we have of men even today in relationships, the expectations we have of men when danger happens, when there's war, when there's things in society that need changed, like that burden is on men. And I think that's also why that some of them are just more inherently willing and desire to hold on to their community or anything that is related to their culture more so than women.
Can I say something really quickly?
Go ahead.
Sorry, brother. Sorry, Mrs. Z. I just wanted to respond to that.
No, you got it.
One thing I've noticed is like the pattern is that black women seek validation from white men, and things have gotten so warped in our community that black men are seeking validation from black women. And I don't know how far we can go with that, because what we have now is when you say majority of black men are, gonna, stick it out and everything like that. What we have is a lot of black men that are following behind the women, in my personal opinion, because
that's done. 18th.
Yeah.
That to go what you're saying, and I'm sorry to cut you off, but that's done because black women were able to pull this, especially over the past few decades, because of the largesse of really white feminists and white women. The white mainly left institutions. So when I say white feminists, I'm not just saying white women. I'm saying white male feminists also. And what you just saw in 2024 election was a stomp out of that. I've been saying this forever. Let me say it on Shay Sade's channel. If you don't appreciate who JD Vance is a white red pill guy. I could smell the manosphere on him. I don't know if anybody else could see it. You're talking about a white dude who married a South Asian woman and is talking about birth rates. This is a white red pill dude, right? And so when I want us to appreciate when you're dealing with politicians, especially one as I think JD Vance is very talented. He may not be as smart as his wife, but he is talented. He knows how to weaponize the institutions. I'm not looking at Trump right now. I'm paying attention to JD Vance and the thing that he said about the single cat ladies and he's worried about birth rates and all this other stuff. So, and I'm saying that to say this: when you look at how black women have been able to lead black men by the nose over the past few decades, I would argue that's pretty much done now, because that was only really able to happen because of the left. The white racist left putting the thumb on the scales for black women. When you watch someone like a JD Vance, Vivek Ramaswamy, I know he's not white, yes, still him. When you look at people like that, who essentially Stephen Miller, all these folks break the back of their white sisters, you have to appreciate the person that actually felt that pain the most was black women, because white women still could go home to white men because their feminism was pretty damn bad, but it wasn't what black women were doing. Black women, on the other hand, burnt the bridge, and that's on them. So long story short, answering what you're saying, what you said, I would argue that black women being led by white men and then black men being led by black women, those days have largely come to an end, and where we go from here is going to be very interesting, because black women no longer, or in a very short time, will no longer have that leverage. They lost 106,000 jobs in 1 month, 300 and some odd thousand jobs in the span of 5 to 6 months. If they keep on shedding those type of jobs within the next few months, you will see a complete reversal in the employment of black men and black women. Not to mention, while that was happening, I think black men gained an extra 100,000 jobs in the past month or so. Right, so that continues for a few more months, and it's a wrap. And I'll pause.
Okay. All right, I got a question. I just wanted to ask everyone a question, Ms. Shay, yourself included, because I got to get ready to go. I'm working. Do you think the divestment hustle, as far as divestment content on YouTube and TikTok, do you think that's over as well for Mrs. E and KFC?
I'll let you guys go first. Then I'll weigh in. If you want to
start, Travels, if you want to go first, you could go. As a matter of fact, let me go because I got to drop in a minute. And thank you for having me up, Shay.
Sure.
I would answer 18th like this. I think you're always going to have a contingent of I will go down with the ship women. So you will have, and this is a human thing. This is not just a black woman thing. the majority of them will get their mind right. They'll hope you never saw their comment under a Chrissy or a divested zealot, or name the Cynthia G's or whoever. They'll hope you never saw their comment, or you don't know that baby boo 783 is your girlfriend. They'll hope that, but I would argue majority of women are going to get their mind right as this, if what we think is going to happen happens, as this environment changes, as materialism gets, you know, socked in the face, a certain type of materialism that we've been practicing in consumerism that we've been practicing in America, give or take, for the past 40 plus years. As that change, I think a lot of women will get their mind right. But there will be divestors who will go down with the ship. They're okay with being homeless just to spite black men, right? That's where you get the phrase, you know, cut your nose to spite your face. They will do that. It won't be the majority. It'll be a loud minority, and you can largely ignore them because they ain't gonna do nothing. They're not moving the envelope. They're not. You know, those people are just angry at the world, and they're just gonna go down with the ship. So that's my, you know, long ass answer to your question.
Thank you, Mr. Z.
And thank you for having me up, Shay. All right, y'all.
Peace.
Yeah, I'll just say, look, so there's going to be a small group of swirler divestors who are going to hold on to that ideology, and they're going to continue to preach it. The thing is that the whole movement, that entire swirl divest movement, is not going to be as robust, and they're not going to be able to make as much money. Because for a while it was really, when the thing first started off, I actually thought it was fun. I really did. I was like, this is just some cute little joke. It's not even a big deal. This thing not going to go anywhere. And then it got hateful. And then it got dangerous. Not so much dangerous, but it could have got dangerous, right? Just based off the rhetoric.
The rhetoric.
You had black women literally gloating at the demise and harm against black men.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You don't see that as much anymore. So what they're realizing is that, hey, you know, this is not working the way we thought it was going to work.
Right.
So all of this false praise to these non-black men, they're not responding. And they're not paying attention to the fact that all the races of men in the United States, when they marry, they're at an 80% plus rate. They're going to marry the women in their racial group, which means you can only get the leftover men who didn't get married. And that's still, you know, got to be a group of men that you're willing to marry. And if they're non-black, then that could be almost any man, because any man will do. But the thing is that those men still have to want you. And when they come to you and they're all messed up, and you know, but they're bottom shelf, whatever they are in their own racial group, and that's who you're getting, then you're still carrying the load, and you're still doing the work that you say you won't do for black men, but you'll do for another race of men.
Yeah,
So
I mean, but we see that.
It's not going to be as robust. Yeah, it's just not going to be as robust. It's still going to be there, just not strong. Because they're just seeing it's essentially a failed movement. It's just not working out the way they thought it was going to work out. Because they gave all of this praise, you know, all of it. Remember, none of these men who are non-black haven't done anything for them in any spectacular or grand way. They haven't built Wakanda and say, here you go, black women, here are the keys to Wakanda. We built this for you. That's never happened. It's not going to happen. The only people who are going to build anything for you are the men that you're married to. And still, it's only black men who are marrying black women in high numbers. We're the only ones doing that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I've mentioned that before. I was like, the reason that I think a lot of these ideas are so, we know it's a lie, is because, first of all, if these ladies, these relationship coaches, content creators, whatever, all these swirler advocates really cared about black women finding love and finding marriage, all of that, like, they would give them the skills to do that. And they would not go out of their way to bash black men, because black men are the ones who are still the most likely to marry them more than any other race. Like, it's just, there's no comparison. Black men love blackness. In some ways, I believe black men love blackness more than black women, if we really want to go there. And that's for the debate. But no one else is more loyal and is more likely to marry or be with a black woman than a black man. That's just statistically proven. So there's no need in you alienating yourself from the people who are the most likely to marry you, and who are the ones who are, I think, most interested in seeing your features being reproduced. You know what I mean? Like, so
for a lot of black men who actually, for the few guys who actually go outside of the race, it's usually because they just couldn't find a black woman that was suitable. That's literally it. They wanted to get married. They wanted to produce children. They wanted to have a family, and they were looking for a black woman, and they just couldn't find one that's suitable. That's literally it. And the fact that that's a problem is a clarion call to really the women, because there's more black men who are willing to be married than actually black women. I can't remember the study. I can't remember the year.
Yeah,
but I remember reading about that a while back.
There were a few.
Whenever they did the studies, it's like, oh yeah, it's like twice the number of black men who would rather be married versus the actual women. And the women will want to be married, but later on. But usually when they ask them, it's based on the age group. And one of the problems that black women are having is they mostly just wait too late. That's literally it. They wait too late. They do too much stuff before they show up as wives, and that's not helpful to any future husband. Which is why about 3 out of 4 of them are never going to see a husband.
Yeah, like I said, they don't. I've already talked about this at length. They are not interested. Black women are not married because they don't want to be married. And there's a whole other conversation because many are. I've heard some people like, no, they do want to get married, but there's not, enough good black men, and then all these pushbacks. But I'm like, no, that is not inherent to our culture. Black women they're not encouraged, like you said. They're not given those values. They're not taught what that means. It's not encouraged. It's discouraged until you get to a certain point and you want someone to help raise your kid, or you're just tired of being alone. But that's usually
that's the other thing too. So look, you're gonna have to be young, looking good, fitting in shape. You're gonna have to be agreeable and ready to be a wife and mother, and you got to show up with no kids. That's all black men are asking. If you have a nice degree or even a job or a career, that's great too. But you know what? Those other things that actually make you a great wife and mother, those are the things that's going to actually, be more important. And then the other thing too is, look, if they really wanted to be married, they would be married somewhere in their mid, no later than it. They'd already be linked up with a good man. Now you can negotiate whenever you go get married, but by your mid 20s, you're already done. You're linked up with a good man. You see him in your future, and you're actually going to marry him. They're not doing that. The average age of marriage for black women in the United States is 32. For black men, it's 33, and that's only because of black women. And because if the women are getting married at 32, then that's who the guys are marrying, right? And it's literally 1 year later. That's the average. That's the median age of marriage for black men is 33.
Yeah. And that's
because the women are waiting so late. When you look at all the other races, they're getting married earlier. Men want you in your 20s. They don't want you much later. They don't want to have to. They don't want to have to. Try to rush into pushing out kids and all this other stuff. There's the stress of that. You can get married and push out kids like 3 or 4 years later if you get married in your early to mid 20s. You can literally do that. A lot of women are done having kids by mid 30s if they have any more, something like that. But the thing is that if you start at 32, you're 32, 34, 35. You're already behind the power curve. And you're going to get married and push out a kid, and then it's like, okay, whatever. And I know people are doing that.
Yeah,
it's not necessarily. But it's not the best. You call it format, and a lot of men don't want that. So they're just doing it wrong. And by the time they realize their mistake, it's like, well, now it's coming from a point of desperation versus, a relaxed overall effort to actually, put yourself in the correct situation. And when you add all that praise to non-black men, which I have yet to see. And this is not a shot. This is not a shot at the men. What have Hispanic, Asian, or white men done that's so great that black women need to be praising them as a collective? What have they done?
Yeah, that's a whole other. That is really a whole other conversation. Because there's a lot to unpack there, but by and large, nothing. We know it's propaganda at its core. It's just propaganda. There's nothing about this idea that is based upon any institutional or empirical data or truth. It's just propaganda. It's a money grab. Some of it's a money grab. Some of it is just leveraging self-hatred that's been unaddressed for quite some time.
Yes, I was just going to say that, Ms. Shakers. How many content creators, black female content creators, that we see in this space go from being pro-black into the divestment scene? We saw quite a few that shifted, especially when the money was rolling in before YouTube started kind of clamping down a little bit. Okay. We saw quite a few that just completely shifted from pro-black content into divestment. Former women that was, quote unquote, for black men, you can say. And I just after seeing this for the last 3-4 years and the hatred and the anti-black misandry, the speech. One thing I just want us to be aware of: we know that it's no realm that they won't go. We know that they will go far. And my thing is, one thing we've noticed with some of these women, these type of women, is when they feel like they've lost everything or they feel like they can't come back, they try to sabotage other women in the process to, be on their, be on their same level. Like when they realize there's no hope for them, let me your mind, you're a young girl, your mind is, you think you're going to be in a great relationship with a black man, well, let me tell you different.
Right.
And then hopefully you listen and go down the same path as me. And that's happening a lot. And we've seen even black women have made videos saying that, I can't be around certain other black women. These women are mean. They're like, you talk about your husband, you talk about how great your husband is, and they try to ostracise you, and like they get irritated.
I was actually on a panel with a
I would
couple of.
say.
I don't really know how we got into the discussion, but it filtered, or it kind of fell into interracial marriages and relationships, and basically all the reasons that they gave for black men marrying outside the race was negative, right? And I'm like, okay, so I said, well, okay, so that's fine. Okay, and I said, okay, let's assume all of that's true. So those are the same reason black men are married outside the race. No, it's different for black men. I'm like, no, it's going to be the same reasons, right? And what they try to give, they try to give some kind of plausible excuse that black women have to do it, but for black men it's self-hate, and they're trying to erase themselves, and they hate. And I'm like, okay, so then then I just go down the list, and then my go-to easy is Candace Owens. I go, there's Candace Owens and plenty of women like her, right, who are doing the nonsense. And then I went so far as to say, well, they're not even. I said, Candace Owens is not even in the black community anymore. She's over there. She's in a whole different non-black community. She's married to a non-black man. That's her leader. That's her leadership, her guidance. And they were like, no. She's still. I was like, no, she's still black. She's still a black woman, but she's not in the community anymore. We're not responsible for her. We're not looking out for her. She's over there with a completely different group of men. And remember, the reason it's problematic is that we know what Candace Owens does, and she's denigrating and dumping all over black people, never on the group of men that she's married to. She's got all the bad stuff that they're doing. She ain't never got anything to say about them. But and they're fine with her doing that. And I'm like, she's not even a part of the community anymore. If she should be giving advice to the community that she's related to and that she's a part of.
Well, we noticed she's not going to do that, because she was saying a lot of typical anti-black Republican, making a lot of that content until the situation transpired between her and what's his name, Ben Shapiro, or something like that. And then now she's kind of swayed away from that. But I was wondering, did she look for her husband to protect her against all of that, or did she try to use her husband's connections to propel her into someone else, giving her an opportunity to be on their media channel? I knew something was up when I saw her on the Breakfast Club. I'm like, what you doing on the Breakfast Club?
Well,
Candace?
that guy barely steps in to do anything for her or defend her in any way. Matter of fact, he's putting her out there as kind of like I don't know, like the workhorse or whatever it is he's doing. You can't find him anywhere stepping in to deflect or protect or to make sure she's shielded from any negativity or any blowback. He's never done any of that. You've never seen it because he knows better.
Well, hey guys, I'm gonna have to wrap this up because I have to start getting ready for dinner pretty soon.
Okay, thank you very much for having me, Miss Shay. Miss Shay, I got one more question before you go. Okay. What do you think about everyone being like a lot of these anti-black misandry channels being so quiet? All of these stories. Now, you've been covering these stories for a very long time, but all of these stories are coming out of the divestors divesting with these different groups of men and turning up missing, and the worst coming to the worst.
I think for a lot of people, it's a money grab. And so if they find that there's a particular narrative that is either going to give them the money or the attention that they want, they're married to it, even if that narrative isn't true. So I think there's some of that there. Like if you are on the whole divestor swirler train and you know that your audience likes pandering to white men and that you have money associated with that, you're not going to cover off stories that undermine or question that. So I think there's that for sure. I think that's a really big aspect of it. I think there's some who actually just legitimately don't care at all, unfortunately. And yeah, I mean that is what I think. That's what I think it really comes down to, and it's also why I mentioned that a lot of this, even if the supposed love for white men, idolizing, that's not even real love, because it's just all about money and resources. It's all about money and resources for a lot of these ladies, and they'll do anything to get that, even if it's at the expense of doing anything that's moral or righteous or godly. So that's how I look at these stories. And I listen, like, I'm one person, I can't cover off all of them. I do the best that I can, but I'm trying now to be more conscious, because I wasn't even aware of how many of these stories are happening that are not getting national coverage, that are just kind of happening. And like, I think it was somebody in the comment section, not to see if I can find it, but it was in one of the videos when they were like, oh, the Sade Robinson was really similar to this other case that just happened. I think, I don't know if it was a few weeks prior, that I had never heard about. It was an older white guy with a young black girl, dismembered her, and I think left body parts. And I'm like, what is going on here? And this isn't the first time I've heard about these ladies being like dismembered. So I'm like, I want to keep more of an eye on this too, because as I mentioned before, I do recognize that unfortunately there's a pipeline here between human trafficking, because I talked about this earlier in the live, where the average John, or the average person who actually solicits services, is, at least in one of the reports, when I interviewed the woman who ran the nonprofit for human trafficking, she said it was basically middle class, like middle income, upper middle income white men. I think it was like 75-80% of them were like the Johns who were shown to solicit services, and then the average girl, or the average age of a girl who gets into human trafficking, is actually around 11.
Yeah, it's a channel, Miss Shay. It's a channel you should check out that I just saw a story on called Only Logical.
Oh, I'm familiar.
Okay, you familiar? Yeah, I just saw a story on there where it was a guy who was a white guy who practically had a girl. He talked to this young kid online, and the kid came up from North Carolina to the Chicagoland area, and she was forced to stay in his house, and you know what else, and all types of stuff, where he was arrested and everything. So yeah, it happens way often than we think. I mean, more often than we think. But yeah, but thank you for having me, Miss Shay.
Thank you. Thank you.
To KFC, talk to you soon, brother. Y'all have a good one.
Likewise, man. Yeah, you have a good night, Miss Shay. Say hello to your family and the husband for us. And
all right, thank you so much. Okay, you take care. All right, guys. So I didn't get through everything, but I got through a good portion. You guys can go back and check it out if you were just hopping on now or catching the replay. We covered off a lot of information. I am going to try to, if it works out, I would like to try to bring on the reformed swirler that I reacted to earlier in this live. She was actually supposed to come on today, and then our schedule was just didn't align, but there may be something that I do. But ultimately, a lot of interesting things. Also, shout out to you, Russell Richardson. I did see some support come through in the Cash App. I really appreciate you. It means a lot. And yeah, if you guys found this helpful, be sure to like, share, subscribe. Also, members, if you are a member, you have access to my Discord. So if you haven't signed up already, please do so. I'll try to repost it again in my members only stuff, so you guys can have access to that, because that's also a good way to connect with me. And I'd love to hear from you guys more in real time. It's hard sometimes on YouTube. There's so many comments. It's hard for me to keep track of everything, honestly. But Discord, I made sure my notifications are on, so I should be getting notifications if you guys ever have any questions or want to interact. So if you are a member, you have access to my Discord. Sign up if you have not already. And yeah, stay tuned for other upcoming content. Also, you can sign up for my newsletter, where you can get access to just other updates. I'm going to be rolling out some other really exciting things soon. I'm actually collaborating with some local Black-owned businesses out in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I'm hoping I want to bring some more of that information to you guys, because I do think it's still really important to support those who are out, boots on the ground, doing the real good, positive stuff, because so often you just don't hear about that. You don't hear about those who are really doing the work, who are supporting others, who are doing positive things, uplifting things. And I have the opportunity to work with different families, women and men, Black women and men, who are doing really positive things, running their own businesses. And so I want to introduce you guys or just help invite you guys into that ecosystem that I'm a part of out here in the Bay. So anyways, appreciate you guys. Like, share, subscribe, become a channel member if you have not already. Be sure to check out my book, It's Not Jermaine's Fault. Also, if you have not, or you should learn to love your hair, which is also content that is specifically for Black kids, about educating the Black kids, helping to empower Black kids, particularly now when education is just so under attack. And thank you so much for listening, guys. I appreciate you. And we will talk later, okay? Bye.